With Danger and Battaglia.
Like, I know the Giants aren't good, but I don't think they're that bad. They were a playoff team last year. They're not that bad.
I think they're a good, solid football team.
They just stink.
Mike Danger.
You could treat this as a preseason game. Let's see how you look this week versus last week. This is a JV squad that's going up against the Buffalo Bills.
Gene Battaglia.
It's looking like we're going to have the Tyrod show coming up. Why not? Like, it's a big reunion here.
Tonight's not very spooky Thursday night football game.
Great win for the Phillies last night. You're all decked out in your Phillies crap.
And that is the series. The Houston Astros defeat the Minnesota Twins.
That is now 7 straight trips to the ALCS for Houston as they now face the Rangers.
And the Diamondbacks have beaten the Dodgers. They have swept them out of Phoenix. Here come the Buffalo Sabres. The New York Rangers.
Owen Power.
Connor Bedard scored his first career goal.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Welcome into the Sports Ball. Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. Appreciate you listening along locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We've even got our video stream up and rolling for you now at The Fan Rochester on YouTube and Twitch. Make sure you like and subscribe while you're there. I am Mike Danger. Over there, that's Gene Battaglia.
Yes. When was the last time we had this good a sports night coming up?
It's challenging.
Wow, yeah.
It's really going to be challenging. Well, I mean, look, we're here, so we're going to prioritize. One, it's Sabres home opener and Sabres season opener. We want to see what the kids look like against the Rangers. That's number one, number one priority.
I will say this, and for everybody, hang with us, because I went in and saw Mo today.
Oh, Mo.
You have the best show, but except when you talk about hockey. I don't like hockey.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Like, if you live in Western New York, okay, and you don't like hockey, well, you got to understand there's a ton of people that do. So, and yes, and actually, this is a year you can reinvest in the Sabres. If you're somebody that's like, they were a joke, they're dysfunctional, I'm telling you, the product is going to be good this year.
I'm laughing at Mo because we know Mo and we know the kind of guy Mo is. Mo is the guy that would hate hockey. Like, that's Mo. I've got a neighbor who hates hockey, thinks it's just you could watch a coin flip and it'd be more
soccer
entertaining.
on ice, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
Yeah. And look, that's fine. There's a reason why hockey doesn't get national talk. Like when you're in our national programming, like they don't spend any time talking about the NHL. They don't spend any time talking about hockey. But we here in Rochester, with the Rochester Americans in our town, and knowing how important and what that franchise means to our community, being also the triple or the minor league affiliate of the Sabres, it matters. And I think we should talk about it, and we will talk about it.
Especially since they're good.
Yeah.
They're going to be good. They get a test tonight.
And don't worry, we'll talk Bills.
Oh, my gosh. Of course.
We'll talk Bills. We're not going to not talk about the Bills because the Sabres are starting their season. So that's one. Number two for me is I kind of want to see the Phillies oust the Braves. I kind of want to see Strider go out there and get shelled. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know that Strider is going to get shelled, but that's a compelling matchup with the momentum that Philly has at home. If they can oust the Braves, and I'll put some skin in the game on that one. I'm interested in that.
No, I have to admit my bias, which is I don't like either of these teams, being a Met fan. So I'm going, if you had to say, well, what do you want to see tonight, Gina? I root for the economy, I guess. And I'm going to quote my mother. I don't think I've ever quoted her before on the show, but growing up, she said these series are always designed to go 7 games, or in this case, 5, just because you can make more money. So this is guaranteed to go 5.
You're rooting for the economy.
So I'm rooting for the economy.
Okay. Well, I've got a little skin in the game for the Phillies tonight. I like how they responded last night in emphatic fashion, and I'm interested to see how that goes. That's number 2 on the list, and then there's number 3. Number 3 on the list.
Let's ride.
Yeah, let's ride.
Let's ride.
Let's ride.
Broncos.
Let's ride.
Perfect.
Okay. One more time. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
Perfect. I want to know what goes on in that game. I'm gonna pay attention because we have fantasy players on those teams and all of that, right? Like, I wouldn't fault you if you said you wanted to watch Broncos Chiefs.
Look, we'll be watching it. You'll flip over, and probably you should. Like, oh, hey, the Chiefs are destroying them, or oh, this game is way closer. What I don't want to see is, yes, what's her name is going to be there tonight.
What's her name? Look at you trying to big time the biggest star on the planet.
Come on.
Oh, what's her name? You just did a Sean McDermott. I think her name is Taylor something. I don't know. Maybe she'll be there.
I did.
You just did a Sean McDermott. You just tried to big time somebody by saying, what's her name is going to be there.
Well, here's the take, Danger. For Mr. Unlimited tonight, his wife is got a level of fame too. Does Sierra show up trying to get that? Is she jealous of the cutaways tonight?
I think Sierra's too cool for all of that. Sierra's just a cool customer. I still don't understand why Sierra and Russell work. Maybe it's just because he's so corny and such a dork, and she's just so cool that it works out. You know what I mean? Like,
or it's a business relationship.
Maybe, but she's just too cool. I don't think she's too cool to be bothered. She's too cool to be bothered by anything that Taylor Swift might do. But will she show up tonight? Well, Prime is certainly banking on it. I'm sure that she will make an appearance. I would imagine she would make an appearance so Prime can get a little boost from the Swifties. What do you think?
I would think tonight, yes. And I'd love to know the real story of who's paying who for all these appearances. But back to the real story here, Danger. When do you have a night where the NFL is your third choice? That's unique tonight.
Yeah. And depending on how that baseball game goes, it might become my second choice. But we'll be monitoring, and it is. It's a great night of sports. We've been talking about it all week. We're entering the meatiest, most satisfying portion of the sports calendar year. It's right now. So the Sabres get underway tonight. You'll be able to hear the action on the Fan Rochester starting at 7 o'clock. Here's what's on tap in the sports bar and on tap at Three Heads Brewing. Skunk Black IPA. Discover why a hint of roasted malt is the perfect complement to big hop flavor. Get some at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue today. A week from tomorrow, we will be at Three Heads Brewing for Friday Football Talk Live Patriots Week. Can't wait for next Friday, live from Three Heads.
The beer tastes great in the month of October, does it not?
Always.
At Three Heads, yes. So make plans next Friday to cut out, to work a little earlier. Just stop off on your way home. That is going to be a fantastic afternoon. We'll be hanging out with the show live 3 to 6. If you haven't been, Danger and I make every effort to come and thank you, and we do appreciate everybody that does come out to our shows. The Buffalo Bills are certainly one of the topics we'll talk about with Andy Behrens. He'll be joining us here just a little bit, but for fantasy purposes, all of a sudden we have injuries here. Achane in Miami, Jefferson in Minnesota. Like, how does this impact these offenses? Are there guys you can plug and play comfortably? What about the Arizona running back situation? There's a lot of things that now all of a sudden are not certain in fantasy. We love having Andy Behrens. He's coming up here shortly.
Yeah, he'll be joining us here at about 3:25. Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy help you set your Week 6 fantasy football lineups. And mention the Sabres home opener, Sabres season opener tonight from KeyBank. Lance Lysowski, the Buffalo News covering the Sabres, our buddy. He's going to join us right around 4:25.
I think the take that Matt Beauvais gave us yesterday is pretty much it. Like, if the Sabres have a goaltender, look out. This should be a playoff team. And then who knows how good a playoff team. But we really don't know. It's a very small sample size for Devin Levi. 1 year ago, we knew Devin Levi was in the pipeline. We were watching him play college hockey. And we were thinking, boy, that's going to be fun in Rochester. Nope, skip right over it. And look, I'm not going to, I was wrong on that take. I'm like, no, development, he needs to be in Rochester. And then, no, he's playing really well up in Buffalo. So hopefully it's not a step back or a half step back, but somehow, some way, this goaltending situation has to get resolved up in Buffalo because you really can't carry 3 goaltenders all season.
Lance will share his takes with us on the upcoming Sabres season, tonight's matchup against the Rangers, and the news that came down last night of Owen Power, the latest Buffalo Sabre to get extended. Lance Lysowski will join us right around 4:25. We've got our usual fare throughout the course of the afternoon. We'll get to happy hour after 5 o'clock, a round of shots, some news and notes to get to from around the NFL throughout the course of the afternoon as well, and some takes on tap with I'll Drink to That. You can join us at 866 4FAN 585-866-4326. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. And the new location, 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
So we had the story coming across yesterday. Of course, it was Tim Graham, because whenever something happens, you can't call it PSE, but the Pegula family of businesses, whether that's the Sabres, the Amerks, the Buffalo Bills, certainly. Wait a second. The guy that was like in charge of them all, basically, John Roth, just placed a couple months ago as the COO, dismissed along with their lead attorney, her name Catherine D'Angelo. You're kidding me. Like, they just posed for a photo. They were just over in London. What the heck is this all about?
Yeah, and last night yesterday, throughout the course of the afternoon, you brought up David Tepper, and we kind of like put a-hole NFL owners on a tier ranking system. Like, he's tier 1 a-hole NFL owner. And when we heard this news, we're like, oh, Terry Pegula, tier 1 NFL a-hole. Well, there's more to the story. And when you kind of like hear what's gone on and what's been reported, you're like, all right, I think I get it. I think I understand why the Bills and the Sabres had to part ways with their newly appointed COO.
Yeah, and look, there's a level of embarrassment that comes here, certainly because, well, you had, for reasons we're not totally sure about, Graham told us on our show, it was just because Terry Pegula didn't like the guy. Ron Raccuia, who was the point guy, basically, for building a new stadium, he's out. Okay, well, they make the change, and now whole new management structure, in comes John Roth, and then we find this out, that there was a, quote, brazen romantic relationship. Now,
brazen?
Yeah, that's the headline from the New York Post.
Brazen. What constitutes a brazen romantic relationship? Well, like, there's nothing behind closed doors? Like, everything was happening in front of other employees? I don't understand.
We used to have holiday parties here.
Things got brazen.
Yes, we're like, whoa, I don't need to see that. Scotty Karate, I'm looking at you.
Oh.
But like, honestly, like, really? So what would that, well, let's take a half step back, because before you had John Roth, before you had, the Ron Raccuia in there, you had Russ Brandon. And why did Russ Brandon get dismissed all of a sudden? Well, similar circumstances, because you did this before, you had to do this again, but you were just posing for this management picture out at Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday morning. Here's the management team. What the heck happened in between Sunday and when the news came across yesterday? Well, yeah. Do you work in New York State? Chances are you have to take these trainings, right?
You got it. You absolutely got it. Now, my initial reaction to hearing that this was a dismissal because the two were involved in a relationship that became problematic internally, my first reaction was, well, I can't really say or judge or be the person to wave my finger and shame them, because who am I? I have also dipped my pen in the company ink, so to speak. I married my wife, who I met at the radio station, and I was her manager for several years. And I imagine for some employees that might have been what the Bills say is problematic. I get it. So I understand that.
It's also, how long ago was that? 20 years now?
So I've been with her for 25 years, but it's the amount of time that I was managing her, that just came to an end more recently. That was more like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago? They finally said, probably best that you do this and she does this.
Yeah.
And look, at the time, I don't know that I was happy or had any feelings about it, but looking back at it now, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. If you're running a business, you don't want those conflicts of interest. You don't want somebody down the road to say, hey, I wasn't able to get mine. I wasn't able to advance because of this relationship that existed between my coworker and her boss. And that's what you have here with the chief counsel, the lead general counsel, and the COO. So I can imagine that it was a problematic relationship, and if it was brazen, it was probably in public, or somebody saw something in public that they maybe shouldn't have. Or, I mean, I've worked with managers who in the hallways here at work, okay, babe, love you, kisses on the cheek, like, No, not at work. Never.
Wow. Again, that was how many years ago? These are the rules of today, right? And so things have changed in that time. I go back to this, and I'm going to make an assumption here, okay? And for anybody, just sidebar. Well, who cares about? Do whatever. Okay, you should care because the guy, John Roth, was in charge of the Amherst, and he was in charge of the Nighthawks.
He's the money guy.
And he's in charge of, like, the building a stadium.
Yes, he's
the
money guy.
There's a lot of problems behind the scenes, okay? And I would assume that if Terry Pegula trusted him before he became, like, into the organization, just as a hedge fund guy, he's smart. Can I make that assumption?
You can.
Okay, and Catherine D'Angelo as the lead counsel.
Probably
as
smart.
a lawyer. Probably smart, too.
I think so.
Okay, so, I'm going to steal the Jim Rome line. Sex is undefeated.
Yeah.
How could you be this dumb?
The most addictive drug on the planet. It's not heroin. It's not cocaine. It's not oxy. It's not any of the opioids. It's that.
Okay, so if they're that smart, then why not just keep this under wraps? You mean to tell me, did you get drunk in London and then all of a sudden, I don't know. We're just speculating, but you want to talk about speculating too. And you're going to say, Gene, you're out of your mind. But I have this fear, and you tell me if it's an irrational fear, and we're going to talk about this show, even though somebody pulled me aside and said, don't talk about that. Okay, we're going to talk about it. The Trotter lawsuit, it's still out there, and I'm just wondering, have you ever... Here's my pop culture analogy. Have you ever seen the movie Spies Like Us?
Spies Like Us, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, 80s comedy. They were at the height of their powers. It wasn't a great movie.
Not a great
movie.
But
there were some moments. Doctor. You're right. Like if you go around and you shake somebody's hand, after that movie came out, you would shake your doctor. That's the scene I remember. That and the end of the movie when these American spies got down with the Russian spies. The hot, attractive Russian spies.
Okay, so there's my analogy because why did all of a sudden these hot Russian spies decide to go shack up with Dan Aykroyd looking guys?
They thought it was the end of the world.
They thought it was the end of the world. Like they thought, oh my gosh,
we fired off a nuke.
Yeah, we're gonna here comes World War III, and all of a sudden they start shacking up. What if?
Great pull, by the way. I mean, like, out of all the analogies of all the movies, we're talking spies. I mean, there's plenty of end-of-the-world movies, but there's Spies Like Us. It does fit perfectly for what you're describing here.
What if there was actual audio of this somewhere out there?
Oh, from the Trotter lawsuit.
Correct. And who would be privy to knowing that? I would think it would be the right-hand man. Oh, I would think it'd be the lead counsel.
Yeah.
So this would be the perfect time to get out.
Yeah.
Just get out. And you could say, Gene, you're crazy for connecting these two stories. I want to just say that lawsuit is still sitting out there.
Yeah, I think there's also a hint of what I like to call champagne taste hot dog wallet. If you spend enough time surrounding yourself with alien billionaires, you might fashion yourself to be an alien billionaire as well. And I'm sure John Roth, he's a hedge fund manager. I'm sure he's probably done well from some. I don't know what he's worth, but
he's not worth Pegula money.
Let's just assume that he's not worth Pegula money. But you see how billionaire owners kind of do as they please, go where they want, when they want, do what they want, when they want. They don't have worries and concerns the way you and I do. They speak freely, which is what has gotten Terry Pegula named in this lawsuit in the first place. I wonder if there was some of that, just guilty by association, that you're part of this elite club of billionaire NFL owners, and you're right next to them. You're there. You're absorbing it all. That you eventually think that you can do it. You have champagne taste, but you're actually still carrying a hot dog wallet.
You are taking the private jet over to London, and life is good.
Yeah. Right, they're just riding high, man. Hey, and here's what I don't know, and I haven't done enough I don't want to have to do any kind of investigative journalism. I don't know anything about their personal lives. Do they have families?
I don't want to dig into that part
I mean,
of it.
like,
It's like,
if they do, then this is actually a sad story, because I would hate to know that they both have families and this is how their families are finding out about it, or their spouses or their kids, or the embarrassment of this. If it's indeed, if they have families, I don't know. But if they did, then this would be an embarrassing way for those relationships to end, if those relationships were to end.
It's happened before in the past with other dismissals. We'll just leave it at that. I don't need to point out who it was, but that's also part of the equation here. That if this gets revealed over and now all of a sudden it's blowing up, then I don't fault Terry Pegula for making this move. Actually, legally, he probably had to make this move.
It's the move to make.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, like, any organization, any corporation, they frown on this, and that's why we take the training that you mentioned. Like, we have to take the training, and she's legal counsel. She should know. Like, she should know. We took the training that you forced us to take as lead counsel. Every company's lead counsel jams you with this training, this online training that talks about hostile work environments and quid pro quo and everything else. So how is that okay? He's a lead counsel. You should know better than anybody that this is a bad idea.
You think it was quid pro quo? No, I shouldn't joke.
The interim COO, apparently internally, Josh Zerlikowski. I'm going to
just call him Josh.
Yeah,
Josh. Yeah.
Josh DZ, because there's a DZ at the start of his last name. He will reportedly be the interim COO. Oh, familiar name here, Jim Overdorf.
Yeah,
will be acting general counsel, with the Bills now looking to attempt to fill both of those jobs with permanent hires. I don't know. I mean, that's part of this too. Like, hire smarter.
How do you think this impacts, like, the guys over here, the good staff with the Amerks and the Nighthawks? Like, for Rob Minter and his staff, they're sort of like, okay, we're kind of on an island here anyways.
I don't think it impacts them at all. Like, it probably doesn't impact them at all, especially since they know the internal people that will be handling the interim, and then when the new person gets hired, you develop a relationship with them and help get them acclimated. But it's just another kind of like head scratching moment for the Pegulas, and it's, I think, more evidence that Kim was really, really vital to the organization.
If you had a president, like, you have to have your finger on the pulse and say there was something in an inappropriate relationship going on, wouldn't you say, hey, cool it. You understand we had to make dismissals in the past, and that would be it. And you never had that conversation, apparently.
Well, yes, or you should just never be in that situation. You're general counsel. You shouldn't even have to have that conversation. You should just know, like, no, you work with this person. There's too much at stake. And you're the one that's telling everybody to take this training that says, don't do this. This is impermissible activity. And certainly don't flaunt it in a, what'd they say, a brazen way?
Brazen.
What was going on in London? My goodness. All right, so that's the Bills front office story, and we promise we'll get to some Bills on the field talk here as well this afternoon in the Sports Bar. We appreciate you checking us out at The Fan Rochester on YouTube and Twitch. We're in the Odyssey app, where you'll always find our shows with Rewind. You can go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed, and also in podcast form wherever you get your shows. Just search out the Sports Bar. Joining us next, Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy will set your Week 6 fantasy football lineup in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on The Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Sports Update.
It's opening night for the Buffalo Sabres. The New York Rangers are the opponent. Owen Power gets a new contract that'll kick in next year. Power on the opponent.
I mean, I'm just excited to play. Like you said, it's been 6 months since the actual game, so it's felt like a long summer. And like I said, just really excited to get going and get back in the swing of it.
Coverage begins at 7 tonight here on the Sports Leader. Buffalo Bills back at work today, a full practice. Dalton Kincaid remaining in the non-contact jersey. He's still in concussion protocol. The Bills have yet to put out their official injury report. Week 6 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's the Broncos and Chiefs in Kansas City. The Braves and the Phillies play Game 4. Philadelphia, with a win, can advance to the NLCS. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Well, you mentioned it, Gino. Week 6 in the NFL gets underway tonight from Arrowhead with the Broncos coming in to visit the Chiefs. And we're always excited to welcome in Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy to help set our Week 6 lineups. Can we make sense, Andy, of that Denver backfield with Javonte Williams apparently coming back for tonight's game? How are you, Andy?
I'm well. You've hit upon like the one, Denver skill position where maybe we want to start somebody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
This is just such a crazy imbalance tonight. It's the league's worst defense, the Denver Broncos facing Patrick Mahomes. It could certainly get ugly in a hurry. I think the thing in Denver's backfield is that I guess if you're a fantasy manager who had drafted Javonte Williams and your thinking was by the second half of the season, I got a full workload guy and he's going to be healthy coming off the, multiple knee ligament surgery. And this is a potential league winner. I feel like Jaleel McLaughlin has played well enough that he's just going to have a role. Like, I don't think it's going to be a massive role, right? But it's 8 to 10 touches, something like that. He's definitely on the small side. He's like 5'7", 185, something like that. He's not a guy that you'd give the ball to 20 times a game necessarily, but he's been really good, and especially in the screen game, he's been fantastic. So he's a pretty good partner for Williams, especially as he continues to come back from a pretty significant injury. So I think Williams is playable, and Williams is pretty clearly going to settle in around 15 touches a game, which is enough to make a fantasy splash. But that's just an overmatched team right now, and they can't possibly keep up offensively with all the points that their defense they're going to give up tonight.
Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, our guest as Week 6 beginning tonight. And, here we go. Some injuries here we got to talk about here. And I'm going to lump the question here together between Achane and Jefferson. The Miami backfield, Andy, is that good enough? The way the system is set up, the plug and play, meaning whether it's Wilson or is there somebody else? And how does the loss of Jefferson impact everybody else on that Minnesota offense?
Yeah, Jefferson is really the irreplaceable guy, right? Like that's the superstar who really tilted the field and changed the coverage equation against the Vikings and all that. So this is a different situation entirely. I mean, Justin Jefferson was already absolutely the top item in the game plan against the Minnesota Vikings, and now he's not there. So it makes life, it's going to be more targets that flow to KJ Osborne and TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison. But it also makes life a little bit more difficult for them because, Justin Jefferson commanded all of the attention and really one of the few receivers in the league who, if you have a great shadow corner, Jefferson is going to get him. You're getting safety help against Justin Jefferson all the time, right? So that's gone. And so that makes life more difficult for Kirk Cousins and for everybody else. Doesn't mean that other people can't benefit because they're going to see more opportunities, but makes life really hard for Minnesota. Perhaps not hard this week because they get the Bears defense, but looking forward, it makes things hard for Minnesota. Achane is a little bit different because Miami was great at the start of the season without him. We've already seen that offense without HA, and it was fantastic. Like he's been an incredible story. He's been a phenomenal player, but Raheem Mostert's really good when healthy, and he's healthy right now. So we can expect Raheem Mostert to lead the backfield. Oh, by the way, Raheem Mostert almost as fast as Achane. So they don't even really lose anything in terms of speed that's on the field, and they get Jeff Wilson back at exactly the right moment. We tentatively expect him to be able to play this week. That guy's he doesn't. In terms of athleticism, he's not the same guy as the rest of these, superheroes on the Dolphins offense. But that guy's a real pro. Certainly knows the system. Certainly trusted by Mike McDaniel. So I don't worry that much about Miami, but I do think this is a big equation changer for the Vikings.
So Wilson was one of the darlings of this week's waiver wire. The other one that I think a lot of people were trying to get out there and grab was in the Arizona backfield, Amari DiMercato. Do we have any sense of what he might look like here, getting an expanded role with Connor being on injured reserve?
Yeah, I'll tell you that, like, the two times in my life that I've seen DiMercato, basically, last week, 10 carries that went really well. He had an 11-yard touchdown, broke some tackles along the way. I thought he looked really good. And then he was basically thrust into a featured role in the national semifinal for TCU after Kendre Miller got hurt. And he put up 150 rushing yards against Michigan, one of the nation's best defenses. So, what I've seen has been really good. They probably get Keontae Ingram back this week. He's had a neck injury, but Ingram has never really. I don't know. We're in his second season now, and the guy, yards per carry isn't everything, but the guy has averaged 1.9 yards per carry. He hasn't. If it ends up being a hot hand situation in that backfield, Ingram has literally never had the hot hand in the NFL. So I would expect DiMercato to sort of be the guy. James Conner was playing so well, which is kind of upsetting because the Cardinals were a really fun story. Everybody had jokes about how were they even trying, coming into the season. But then Conner played well. Dobbs has played surprisingly well. So it's a huge loss for them. But I think that DiMercato is the best bet in that backfield, and it seems like it's going to be several weeks before we see Conner again.
Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, our guest here. Andy, I love this trivia question. The team that has gone the longest since their last 30-point game. And the answer is, no, it's not New England. It's not the Jets. It's actually the Tennessee Titans. 22 games, their last 30-point game, which you would say, that's not a team I want any part of. No, you still have Derrick Henry, although are there signs that maybe we're actually going to maybe a committee there? Should Derrick Henry owners be worried about Tajay Spears and an increased workload there?
Yeah, fantasy managers worry about everything. So they're going to be worried. I will say that Derrick Henry is still averaging like 19 touches per game. So that puts him on pace to be about 60 touches short of where he finished last year, but it's still an absolutely elite rate. He is still one of there just aren't many guys who are seeing 18 plus touches per game, and Derrick Henry is still one of them. So you can feel good about that. It is troubling that he is basically off the field like 45% of the time. And Tajay Spears has been playing a lot. Tajay Spears is a really good player who they have clearly pegged as an important piece of the future. And he deserves to play. It looks really good. It is really tough for Henry. There's a lot of headwinds here, right? Like he's off the field a bunch, which for him basically means there's never going to be a check down opportunity. His receptions are not. He finally last year was somewhat involved as a receiver, and that has been lessened by the impact of Spears. Also, that offensive line has been pretty terrible. So a lot of headwinds there, but he's holding value so far because he's just every time he's on the field he's getting the ball, which is a good thing, and I would expect that to remain the case. He's also a guy who we can't, if they lose a couple games here, we can't rule out the possibility that he's on the trade block, and if that happens, it's hard to imagine him landing in a spot where his value would go down. So I don't know. I've got Henry in a couple places, and I'm still feeling okay about it. I don't feel like I'm going to get 400 touches out of him, but he can still be fine.
Andy, break down the Falcons' offense for us, because right now I feel like
one guy.
Yeah. I mean, but like you had a decent performance out of Ritter. We saw Drake London show up a little bit. I mean, is there an opportunity here for the Falcons? I shudder to think, but is this a buy low opportunity for the Falcons with the Commanders this weekend?
Yeah, well, there certainly are opportunities against the Commanders. The problem is, you'll never convince me that, like, in Arthur Smith's perfect game script, he doesn't just run the ball 40 times. We've seen it so often from him. Everybody gets how talented, Kyle Pitts is and Drake London, but we also know what Atlanta wants to do, and they do it very well. They have a pretty good run blocking line. So this is definitely a game in which they could just control time of possession, and they could run it 35 times and get out of there. And then people are complaining about Drake London and Kyle Pitts again. It was funny last week seeing people take victory laps on Kyle Pitts. Man, he had 80 yards and no touchdown.
Right.
If that's the game that you're really trumpeting from your generational tight end, I don't know. It's going to be a struggle. My general opinion on that team is that I still can't believe they weren't in on Lamar Jackson in the offseason, right? Like, if Lamar Jackson was really on the trade block, holy cow, was that the team that needed to add him? It's really too bad. London's good and Pitts is really good. I just don't think long term that they have a very clear path to being, anybody can be a tight end one, because it really only takes like 550, 600 yards and like 5 or 6 touchdowns. And Pitts can certainly get there. But man, if you were planning on that guy being a top 3 tight end, I don't think that's going to happen. And if you're planning on Drake London being like a top 15 receiver, I don't think that's happening either.
Andy Barron's our guest, Yahoo Fantasy. Andy, there is one team that has some changes. I'm just curious to get your thoughts here because, well, you had their star running back return last week, except it was Zach Moss getting the workload there. And now you have Gardner Minshew. How different is that Colts offense going to look here, Andy? And is that a source for points this week going into Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think the major difference, at least in terms of like box score differences, is really that we're just not going to get all these rush attempts from Anthony Richardson. And they'd done, that team had done an incredible job building an offense around Richardson. I thought they gave him a bunch of really, sort of layup, comfortable, like comfort zone throws early in the season. Easy stuff that he could connect on, like sort of, half field read situations. And he was playing very well. Obviously, he has not been able to make it through. I think he only made it through one game fully healthy. So that a huge problem. So I think the only thing that really goes away are all the rush attempts and all the Anthony Richardson, rushing touchdowns. So that's really good if you've got Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor, right? Because that was the major worry coming into this season with Taylor, other than the holdout, was the fact that Richardson was probably going to be taking a lot of goal line opportunities. Now that's not there could be 4 weeks, could be 8 weeks, could be the rest of the season. I think this is like, I think that whatever you were expecting from Michael Pittman, from Josh Downs, you can still expect, because Gardner Minshew can throw it at least as well as Richardson. So I'm not that worried there. And then I just think that, we've seen the team pay Jonathan Taylor. We know he's really good. I assume that, we're probably going to see him get a little bit more work this week and then a little bit more of the work the following week. And then, we're going to be 2-3 weeks down the line and Zach Moss is going to be just a rotational player.
Andy, last week at this time, we were making jokes and we were wondering, do we trust the Chicago Bears offense? Do we trust the Chicago Bears offense, Andy?
Well, as I've consistently said, the Bears are back. No one has been more steadfast in their Bears optimism than, obviously the Bears have been a total roller coaster, and we don't know from week to week what they're doing. It feels like the same thing that happened last year is happening again this year, where they recognize 5 games into the season that, perhaps we've designed the wrong offense for this particular collection of talent. And maybe we need to change some things, and they're finally getting about the business of doing that. It's good to see. They have a string of pretty friendly opponents coming up on the schedule. That is also good to see, right? They've got, it's Minnesota this week, and I think they've got like the Chargers and Raiders ahead too, right? So we have a real opportunity for them to put up some numbers in the near term. And I don't know, it's hard not to be optimistic about Justin Fields when you see it, even for a game, right? Because he's got the arm, he's got all the traits you want to see. That was, as a Bears fan, I will say that it's much too early in the season for me to be rooting for losses and rooting for draft position, right? Like I can't go 3 months, 4 months rooting for draft position. That's intolerable. So it was nice to see them have a good week, and now they've got a really friendly stretch. So I do actually think that, it's probably not going to be every week, but I feel like at least 2 of these 3, they're going to put up some numbers, and Justin Fields is going to climb back into that, top 5 QB conversation.
Andy, what's the matter with your boy Laporta? He can get 3 touchdowns in a week. We got to settle for 2?
Well, I'm a little panicked about him today because he missed practice today, and we still haven't heard what the reason is. Maybe they're already giving Sam Laporta veteran rest days, or maybe it's an injury of some sort. I hope not. Because I literally, there's not a player that I have more of than Sam Laporta. I honestly, I probably have him on 75% of my fantasy team. So it's gonna take. I'm gonna need to take a day off. I'm gonna need to take a vacation day if I have to actually replace Sam Laporta on all these teams. So I hope he's doing okay.
Andy, last one for me, and it's always fun when you get a Monday night matchup where you're gonna have a lot of players going with Dallas and the Chargers and. Yes, I worry. Lots of fantasy managers worry. And the worry question here about the Cowboys, right, that there's nothing to see here, correct? Because there's more than a statement by the Niners. You expect the Cowboys here to bounce back in this game?
Yeah, it's funny. I write this column each week, this panic meter column, right? And we just ask people, okay, what are you freaking out about this week? Give me the names. And every week, the names that roll in, a bunch of them are players who are coming off of a Niners game, right? That's just how it's going to go. The Niners are going to stomp some people this year, and they're going to make you question your fantasy choices briefly because that defense is incredible. They have a couple of different guys who could win Defensive Player of the Year. They're loaded in all aspects, and so it's just not that unusual to come off a game against the Niners and people are like, oh man, what's wrong with CeeDee Lamb? What's wrong with Tony Pollard? Well, I don't think anything's wrong with those guys. They just, they were just punching up a little bit in terms of quality of competition. And this is a real get right spot for guys like Lamb and Tony Pollard because the Chargers have been so generous to the wide receiver position. Plus, CeeDee Lamb is coming into kind of a squeaky wheel game, right, where he was visibly irritated in the Niners game. Clearly wants the ball more. I think he gets it here. I think he makes some noise. Tony Pollard hasn't found the end zone since opening week, and yet he has more red zone carries, more inside the 10 carries than any back in the game. So I think he finds the end zone here. It should just be the total in that game is 51. Could go over that. I think it's going to be a fun one, and I think it's just kind of a get right week for all of your fantasy assets that are on either team.
And Andy will be joining us next week to tell us what's wrong with Isaiah Ford, what's wrong with Amari Cooper, what's wrong with...
Exactly right.
Yeah. Andy, tell us about tonight because we've got Week 6 kicking off, and we know that you're going to be busy just before kickoff.
Yeah, join us for Fantasy Football Live on Yahoo. It'll be easy to find from the fantasy page, from the main sports page. Fantasy Football Live at 7 p.m., about 75 minutes before kickoff. We go through all the need-to-know situations, answer a bunch of sit-start questions, talk up the Thursday game, and it's always good fun.
Yeah, make it part of your ritual. I look at it as your beginning of the weekend there, tuning in to see Andy on Thursday night. Andy, thanks for your time today, and good luck this week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There he is, Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy. Generous with his time and giving us some great fantasy football advice as we set our lineups for Week 6 that gets underway tonight with the Chiefs hosting Let's Ride.
That stat about the Niners, until the Steelers actually won earlier, that the Niners had defeated the teams coming off of losses to the Niners, lost the next 13 weeks after you played them. It's just that was a stat that so in other words, what I'm saying
they don't just beat you, they snatch your soul.
Right. So just to say, the Cowboys will bounce back. No, there was a streak there that just ended 13 straight.
They're playing the Chargers.
It's going to feel like a Dallas home game, right?
Yeah, it's going to feel like a Dallas home game, and it's the Chargers D. It's the even if it's a close game, the Chargers will charger. And the Cowboys will like that game is actually sneaky good. Like I'm kind of looking forward to that Monday night game, not just for fantasy purposes, just for pure entertainment purposes. We always appreciate Andy stopping by. He does so every week, every Thursday at this time. Thursdays 3:25. Put a little thing in your phone there, a little reminder in your phone to check out the Sports Bar every Thursday before you set your lineup. And Andy Behrens will be on with us to help you win your fantasy football championship. All right, we're going to take a break here. We've got some takes on tap coming up in the Sports Bar, Gino.
Yeah, so, wow. Phillies, Braves. You know what makes a great rivalry? It's not just the action on the field. It's the chatter, the talk off the field. And we certainly have this. But what's being said out of the Atlanta locker room, I just am not sure that is it loser language, or is this actually they have a point here? We can discuss that. And there is one good thing I think still left on ESPN radio programming, but Creaney's way off the mark here. Like, honestly, this take, no way.
I got a couple of plays that I like in the NHL tonight.
Because you're in the danger zone.
I'll tell you who I like in tonight's NLDS. And when you look at baseball's postseason, Gino, and I know you and Baseball Writer were against widening the field, against the expanded playoffs. I'm going to tell you why. Based on what we're seeing this year, it's fantastic.
Oh, get out.
Fantastic.
Oh, come on.
For
yes.
the postseason.
Yeah, you'll tune in to see Arizona, Texas.
We'll get to that and more next. I'll Drink to That is coming up in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Talking about Week 6 of the NFL getting underway tonight. Start the NFL week off right. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, all customers get a no-sweat same-game parlay for tonight's Thursday night football game. Just place a 3-leg same-game parlay on this week's game between the Broncos and Chiefs. You'll get bonus bets back if you don't win. NFL same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payday. Build your own or choose from one of the popular same-game parlays pre-built for you in FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. Visit FanDuel.com/Mike. M-I-K-E, so you don't miss out on your chance to get a no-sweat same-game parlay on America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Odyssey has sports for
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports Update.
Hockey is back in Western New York, and high expectations for the Buffalo Sabres, who begin tonight. The New York Rangers are the opponent. Zach Benson excited.
Yeah, I mean, you probably take a second or two to kind of soak it all up and realize that you're there, but at the same time you're there to win a hockey game. So you got to be dialed in and ready to go.
Coverage begins at 7 tonight here on the Sports Leader. We'll be joined later this hour with Lance Lysowski. The Buffalo News will talk some hockey. Bill's back at work today. Dalton Kincaid remaining in the non-contact jersey. He's still going through concussion protocol. Week 6 of the NFL season beginning tonight. It's the Broncos and the Chiefs. Braves trying to extend their season tonight. They need to win against the Phillies in Game 4. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
I know the Giants aren't good, but I don't think they're that bad. But they were a playoff team last year. They're not that bad.
I think they're a good, solid football team.
They just stink.
Mike Danger.
You could treat this as a preseason game. Let's see how you look this week versus last week. This is a JV squad that's going up against the Buffalo Bills.
Gene Battaglia.
It's looking like we're going to have the Tyrod show coming up. Why not? Like it's big of a reunion here.
Tonight's not very spooky Thursday night football game.
Great win for the Phillies last night. You're all decked out in your Phillies crap.
And that is the series. The Houston Astros defeat the Minnesota Twins.
That is now 7 straight trips to the ALCS for Houston as they'll now face the Rangers.
And the Diamondbacks have beaten the Dodgers. They have swept them out of Phoenix. Here come the Buffalo Sabres. The New York Rangers.
Owen Power.
Connor Bedard scored his first career goal.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Kevin Adams handing out contracts like he's Oprah Winfrey. You get a contract. You get a contract. You got Darlene. You got Power.
Yeah, you're all getting below value, basically. Like Darlene's contract, yes, most ever in Buffalo Sabre history, but that's going to look good 2-3 years down the road.
Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News covers the Sabres opening night for the Sabres at KeyBank. We'll get his thoughts on the upcoming season here in about 20-25 minutes or so. Welcome into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're listening along locally at 95.7 FM and AM 950. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app. We look our best on the video stream at The Fan Rochester on YouTube and Twitch. Make sure you like and subscribe while you're there and click that little bell for some notifications. You'll always know when we're going live here in the Sports Bar. And you're welcome to join us as well on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That number is 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. The new location, 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com.
Well, my mood generally is dictated by coffee or alcohol. Mike Danger's mood is dictated by numbers.
Yes, I don't want to get screwed over by the algorithm. So, do your part to help us build our community. I'm only in a good mood if the numbers are pointing in the right direction.
Yeah. So, please. Yeah, what a night. And I'd be curious, anybody that wants to share what you're looking forward to tonight, whether it's the Sabres, whether it's Taylor Swift and the Chiefs. Not for me personally. Baseball tonight, yes. I think that's on the agenda for a lot of us, and you've got this prime matchup. I wish it was actually the World Series because these two teams don't like each other. They're very talented, and just the way this kind of matched up, this feels like, at the very least, it should have been the NLCS, talking about the Braves and the Phillies. The question is, are there unwritten rules when it comes to being a reporter in the locker room of the clubhouse?
Okay.
Now, go back to Game 2. The ending of the Braves-Phillies, right? It was a stunner, right? Here's the drive to center. Oh, he caught it. Whoa, Harper thought it wasn't going to be caught. He gets doubled off. That's the end of the game. Shocking end, right? Braves win. Jake Mintz is with Fox Sports, and he reported that in the Braves clubhouse, Orlando Arcia was screaming, "Attaboy, Harper, attaboy," just kind of fired up. Well, simply overheard, right? Well, Harper, used that as motivation, apparently. Launched 2 bombs in Game 3, staring down Arcia. Side note here, also the throat slash. No, Bryce, you can stare
still
him down.
doing the throat slash is still a thing, huh? I thought they completely outlawed that thing.
Yeah, in the NFL they did. Baseball is a little behind the times.
Well, they don't have a juice. If they had juice in baseball, I mean, we need a story like OJ in baseball for them to get rid of the throat slash. That's what we're waiting for, right?
Yeah, look, in the state of the world today, don't do it. Who's to blame here, though? Like, actually, for what happened? Is it the Braves pitchers? No, of course, silly. It's the media. Yeah, the media is to blame because Bryce Harper went off. Here's Braves catcher Travis d'Arnaud.
Yeah, check this out.
The clubhouse is a sanctuary, and I think when things like that get out, it doesn't make people want to talk to the media. It affects the people who have been great to us all year, and it is what it is.
Oh, a sanctuary.
The sanctity of the locker room.
Okay. Things that are a sanctuary. Ready? A church. A temple.
Yeah.
Howard Stern, the sanctity of my home. I would even go with that. Like, Garcia, was he yelling this in front of reporters? What? He didn't think that would get back to Harper at some point?
I'm telling you, for the most part, I'm kind of glad we don't know what goes on in clubhouses and locker rooms because you hear some stories and it's like Caligula. You just don't want anything to do with what's going. It's just ridiculous. So in that regard, yeah, I would like a lot of it to kind of remain behind closed doors. This is ridiculous, though. I mean, come on. If it's one guy who's fired up because he made a play on a star player, by the way, attaboy Harper. If Arcia is screaming that out and the reporter overheard it and it somehow got back to Harper, which of course it got back to, who cares? Who cares? Pitch better to him next time.
Yeah, like you're gonna blame this on this. Also, the Bills have a written media policy. Just so they know this, like they say you cannot, if you hear something or see something,
anything in the locker room.
It has to be a player in front of a microphone, or you're just like doing this. You can't report on things, observations, anything like that. And look, you're entering their territory.
It is a sanctuary.
It's a sanctuary.
Is it like when I think sanctuary, I always think of like going to the spa and they before you get your massage or whatever, they send you into the sanctuary and you just kind of sit and wait for your turn. And the sanctuary is this relaxing place where the music is calm and you hear the babbling brook in the back. That feels like a sanctuary. A Major League Baseball clubhouse does not feel like a sanctuary to me. You could say private. It's private. What happens here stays here. It stays behind closed doors. I don't know that I would describe it as a sanctuary.
When you were in your DJ days, was it before your time Sanctify Yourself by Simple Minds?
Oh, I remember Simple Minds. Yeah, Sanctify Yourself.
Sanctify.
Yeah, you were into that, huh?
Of course. A child of the 80s. What do you want?
Get back in your locker, nerd.
No.
And give me your lunch money. Stop talking to my girlfriend, my cheerleader girlfriend.
No, come on, Depeche Mode and that makes me a nerd for liking that sort of genre. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of that game, I do like the Phillies on the money line tonight. Why not? I mean, they're getting plus money. Let's see if they can close them out at home. In the NHL tonight, of course, we've got the Sabres. We'll have that game for you here on the Fan Rochester at 7 o'clock. I'm going to stay away from the Sabres and Rangers. I want to enjoy that game. I want to observe that game. I don't want to have any extra skin in the game. But if I have an opportunity to bet against the mouth breathers of the St. Louis Blues, you know I'm going to take that. The Stars are at home. The Stars are at home, and I like the Stars minus a goal and a half on the puck line. I also think the Devils can handle Detroit at home minus a goal and a half over the Red Wings. A couple of plays for you there in the NHL. And just before we get to your next take, Gino, I wanted to point out, because I know that there's a lot of people that are purists to baseball that really didn't like the idea of expanding the postseason, expanded playoffs, because the regular season doesn't mean as much. Okay. The 5 winningest teams this year in the regular season in Major League Baseball: the Braves, 1 loss from elimination. The Orioles swept in the ALDS. The Dodgers swept in the NLDS. The Rays swept in the wild card. The Brewers swept in the wild card. Gino, I want to see the best teams playing their best ball right now. These teams are all fat and lazy at this time of year. They're resting on their laurels. I love it. I think it's great. I think when the Braves lose this series, again, that's fun. That's exciting. I want the underdog.
In the end, it's going to work out because you have a Texas team that I poo-pooed all along saying, no, their bullpen's terrible. But yet you have Bruce Bochy in that lineup. Whoever comes out of the American League is legit. It's the fact that if Arizona gets in danger, that's where I think, any other, if it's Arizona against anybody, we're going to be like, blah.
Arizona's nothing more than Baltimore of the National League. They're just young. They're exciting. They're kind of like the same thing, except they're in the National League.
They're a poor man's Baltimore.
Okay. But there's some youth and there's some excitement around that organization. I mean, when you see the celebration last night, I mean, how much fun is that? Those dudes jumping in the pool wearing their that. I love seeing that. That's all good. And you're doing it against the Dodgers. Get out of here, LA. Get out of here. Nobody wants to see you in the World Series, Dodgers.
Or Braves, or feel like I got to pull for Arizona now.
I think that might be all you have left.
Or look till next year.
Yeah.
I do not miss ESPN radio programming. I'm being honest. Honestly, I don't. I mean, the show's from way back when, certainly, but now,
All right, so we're not completely inside here. Talking about ESPN radio programming. ESPN radio in its heyday, when you had Mike and Mike, and you had
Van Pelt,
Russillo and Van Pelt, and you had Coward, and you had certainly Le Batard. These were all before Le Batard, you had Coward, right? And there was a time where they all existed on the same network, and then there came a time where ESPN just kind of said, "Yeah, you know what? If Greeny and Gola can't make it work, we'll patchwork it here, we'll patchwork it there," and it's just never really been the same.
No, it was like J. Will, Zubin, and Keyshawn. No, but they did have one show there, and I will give him credit, Greenberg, the mainstay, and I appreciate the work of Greeny. But as I sit from afar, it seems like he's leaning into the I'm a Jet fan card just a little bit too much. This take from today, he says the Jets will get Aaron Rodgers back in Week 13, and the Jets are going to make the playoffs. I think the full stop here in the Week 13. That would be groundbreaking in science to return that quick. So let's just kind of push that to the side. But make the playoffs? Look, you're not getting by Buffalo or Miami in the division, so that leaves, you got to get one of the two other wild cards here. And there are, 7 winnable games for the Jets in no particular order here. The Giants, the Raiders, the Patriots, again, the Browns, the Texans, I'm still putting in there, the Falcons, the Commanders. Let's say you take all 7 of those. It gets you to 9 wins. I don't see 9 wins getting you into the postseason in the AFC. And that would be a big assumption to win all 7 of those games.
I think that the idea that Rodgers is back by Week 13 is just put those rose-colored glasses on Greeny, because I think that's all he's doing here. He's so downtrodden as a Jets fan that the one glimpse of hope that they had was when they signed Rodgers. You get that enthusiasm, and he still hasn't recovered from the Week 1 fiasco of 4 plays, and he's out for the season.
Because every Jet fan has to be like, oh my gosh, if we only had a quarterback. And, you blame the GM. Maybe you should have come up with a better plan other than Zach Wilson.
Well, I think Zach Wilson's going to be just fine the rest of the year. You don't think he's going to continue to improve and learn under Nathaniel Hackett and become this great quarterback for the Jets, the quarterback of the future when Rodgers decides he wants to hang it up eventually? That could be maybe that's what Greeny should be out there selling. Zach Wilson's actually good. Daniel Jones looked good this time last year. What happened? By the way, no practice for Daniel Jones today. We should mention.
No, it's looking like the Tyrod show.
Yeah, crazy. You can join us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Doug and Ron Quite wants to talk some Bills. Hey, Doug.
What up, Doug?
Hey guys, how you doing? First of all, I got to thank you very much for making this football season tolerable for me. I lost my mom in June.
Oh, sorry.
She was a diehard Bills fan. This weekend, though, man, the Giants and Tyrod and the Bills are a 14-point favorite. That makes me nervous because without Matt Milano, who is the Superman of that defense, he's phenomenal, and Tyrod is an ex-Bill, and you got the former coach Brian Dable coming to Buffalo, and I don't know. I just have a lot of bad vibes with this game.
Yeah, Doug, I'm really sorry for your loss, and appreciate you making us part of your day. And I'll just kind of respond here. I don't think you have anything to worry about if you go through that checklist. No Milano, don't worry about it. Tyrod, stop. Don't worry about Tyrod. Go back and remember all the bad Tyrod games and the flaws, and McDermott will know. Third point 3. Does Daboll know exactly how to confuse Josh? Even if he did, I don't know if the Giants have the personnel on defense to do it.
That's exactly right. I think that even if Brian Daboll unlocked all of the secrets to Sean McDermott and Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, he doesn't have the talent that can exploit any weaknesses that he might think he has unearthed. I'm not worried about it at all. I think the Bills win, and I think they win comfortably. I'm predicting 31-10. That's my prediction. 31-10, and a good chance you're ready to go to bed by halftime because it's just going to be, it feels like it'll be a one-sided affair. I don't think the Bills are going to have 2 bad games in a row, and that was a bad game last week, right? We can agree there were moments where it's like, oh no, they look good. That looks normal when they played with urgency. The defense was bend but don't break, but the outcome was terrible, and you can look back and be like, yeah, that game in London wasn't a good game. And it wasn't a good game offensively. I think they get right. I think they get right against a team that just doesn't have the talent to match up with the Buffalo Bills. And on prime time, come on.
Yeah.
On Sunday night, how have the Giants fared on Sunday night? How have the Giants fared in the Daniel Jones era in primetime games? I think they're like 1-13, something like that.
Giants are a bad team. Now, from a betting standpoint, and Doug said 14, actually, BetQL now is at 14.5. I wouldn't go anywhere near this, and here's why. The backdoor cover, as we say. You can see the Bills leading by, say it's a 30-10 score, and then all of a sudden, Tyrod, touchdown, final seconds, and you lose that bet. I don't want any part of a game like that when you have that big a spread and you don't know all that much.
I was incorrect in my assessment of Daniel Jones in prime time. I'm going to give you a list of the 4 worst quarterbacks' performances in prime time. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ken Anderson, 3-10 career. This is since 1970 amongst quarterbacks who have at least 10 starts in prime time. Ken Anderson, 3-10. Jeff George, 5-17. The Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, 6-21 in prime time.
Stop. We've watched Andy Dalton 27 times in prime time.
Yes.
What is wrong with this league?
Daniel Jones has a win percentage of .077. He is 1-12 in primetime games. Now, Jones may not play. And if you're going to try and sell me on the idea that Jones not playing is scarier because Tyrod is Tyrod can't sniff a field at this point. It's just not going to work.
Now, I know what you'd be saying. Oh, come on. How come Kirk Cousins isn't on this list? 11-18 for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
He's got a losing record. Been on losing teams, but you're talking about a new level of sucker.
No, this is bad.
Yeah, that's why good, Daniel Jones is not in. Well, let him be in.
It doesn't matter.
No.
I don't think it matters. I don't think if it's Jones, fine. If it's Tyrod, okay. Like you know both of them. You know what you're going to get with both of them. With Jones, they're both elusive. They're both guys that can make plays with their legs if they need to get out of the pocket. But we know what Tyrod's weakness is. He can't throw the ball downfield. He can't make decisions. I mean, please. I'm not worried about this game. And we said it yesterday, and I know that Matt Beauvais, when he joined us, is like, I don't know about that. This would be the most embarrassing regular season loss in Bills history if they lost to the Giants, especially if it's Tyrod.
If it's at home, in prime time, you're a 14.5-point favorite.
It is the NFL. Weird things happen. I mean, let's not forget that the Bills on a Sunday afternoon a few seasons ago went into Minnesota as what, like 15-point underdogs?
17.5.
17.5 against the Vikings. Josh Allen's second or third start as a pro, maybe?
It was his second start. The Charger game the week before they lost.
That's right.
Yeah, Vontae Davis the week before quit.
That's right.
That's what like oh my gosh, this organization's a joke.
And they went in and they embarrassed Minnesota, right? So it can happen. It's the NFL. It's weird. I don't see the Bills as that team. I think they're better coached than that. I think they're better disciplined than that. I'm not worried about the New York Giants. I can appreciate everybody that, Brian Daboll. No. I'll say this. All right, here's a take. I can't tell you with certainty that Brian Daboll is a good head coach. If you look at his resume prior to working with Josh Allen, a lot of holes in that resume.
Oh, he had offensive. He was the offensive coordinator in Miami, New England, a lot of places. Cleveland.
Success in Alabama, right?
Correct.
Success in Alabama, which, look, you and I could probably go down there and have success with that program with Nick Saban and those players. But before he came to Buffalo, before he started working with Josh Allen, Brian Daboll was a gamble. He didn't have any success with any of the other places he was at in the NFL. And furthermore, I've said this, and you've heard me say this, like Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen until Steph Diggs got in the picture. You get Steph Diggs in the picture, and now you've got a full complement. Now you've got alignment between coordinator and quarterback and receiver. So last year was a nice story for the Giants. They make it to the playoffs, and everybody Daniel Jones looks lost. Brian Daboll a good coach team doesn't have their offensive line making cracks at the fans. Like, you got to be better than that. That's not a good look. That looks terrible. So I'm not convinced that Brian Daboll is even a good head coach. And we like him. Respect the fact that he was here and had success here. But I need to see more than just a fluky season where they got into the playoffs.
Well, they were embarrassed on Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys, and then it got worse after that. So, yeah, jury's out. I will say that. Before we get to Lance Lysowski, I need a ruling on this, Danger.
Talk to me.
Okay, so I think anybody, what I said earlier in the show, hey, if you're somebody that, I don't know if I like hockey, hey, come on board the Sabre bandwagon. It's okay. It's okay to kind of jump on. Or if you're somebody who was like, last few years I haven't, you can come back. This one I'm not so sure. I got this text. Hey, I'm adopting the Sabres this year. Really? It's Jay Binkley.
Oh.
Blues are still my team, but I needed an Atlantic team, and I've always liked the Sabres. Do we want Jay Binkley on the bandwagon as my, finger quote here, second favorite team to the mouth breathers?
He did say the Blues are still his team. He's adopting the Sabres. Welcome aboard, Jay.
Really? I would say no.
Sure. Yeah, fine. He's fine. He's not really going to be a Blues fan much longer. If the Sabres are what we think they are, he'll be invested fully in the Sabres. He's just, he's skating to where the puck is headed, to use a hockey analogy. He knows what's up. Now, if he comes in here and starts pontificating about, how he knows why the Sabres are doing what they're doing or not with. Okay, Jay. All right. Very good. Yeah, he's excited for it. We're excited for it. Sabres hockey gets underway tonight. Regular season, the home opener. The Rangers are the opponent. We'll have the game for you. You'll be able to hear it on the Fan Rochester, kicking off at 7:00. And one of our regulars here in the sports bar, Lance Lysowski, who covers the team for the Buffalo News, stops by the sports bar next, gives a preview of tonight and a preview of the season. Lots of news around the organization as well, with the extension to Owen Power last night, and certainly Rasmus Dahlin earlier in the week. Lance Lysowski, the Buffalo News, next in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for
Sports Update.
Opening night for the Buffalo Sabres. The New York Rangers are the opponent. Defenseman Owen Power gets a new contract last night. He is ready for tonight.
I'm just excited to play. Like you said, it's been 6 months since the actual game, so it's felt like a long summer. And like I said, just really excited to get going and get back in the swing of it.
Coverage begins at 7 tonight here on the Sports Leader. Lance Lysowski, Buffalo News. We'll talk some Sabres hockey coming up next here in the Sports Bar. Bill's back at work today getting ready for the Giants on Sunday night. Dalton Kincaid remained in a non-contact jersey. The tight end still in concussion protocol. For the Giants, the opponent Daniel Jones once again not practicing today. Week 6 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's the Broncos and the Chiefs. Game 4 tonight, Braves and Phillies. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader. The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's very comforting to know we have Rasmus Dahlin, Matthias Samuelsson, and now Owen Power locked up to long term. I mean, those collective three are pretty imposing already, and their potential is really still off the charts.
There's Buffalo Sabres head coach Don Granato talking about that D-core that has been locked up, with Owen Power getting his extension last night, Rasmus Dahlin earlier in the week. The Sabres hit the ice tonight at 7 o'clock against the Rangers. You'll be able to hear it. First game of the season here on the Fan, Rochester. Lance Lysowski joins us now from the Buffalo News. Lance, there's a word that Granato just said in that clip that always makes me nervous. The potential. Potential is great. You're paying now for potential, and I know that there's value down the road, but is there any concern within the organization that they are paying all of these guys when, let's face it, the team hasn't won anything yet?
That's the nature of the business in the NHL nowadays. When you identify which players you're going to build around, you try to sign them for as long as possible, as soon as possible, because considering the talent of a player like Owen Power, Kevin Adams knows the price tag is only going to increase. Like Jake Sanderson in Ottawa signed a contract very similar to Owen's, although Sanderson is 2 years older and doesn't have even a fraction of the offensive talent that Owen Power has. There's risk involved, but there's an even greater risk just taking this guy to a 3-year deal and then watching him walk in a few years. Like, hey, I mean, Sam Reinhart did that, and he has helped the Florida Panthers make those.
Talking with Lance Lysowski, Buffalo News, Sabres and Rangers. We'll have the coverage beginning at 7 o'clock, and assuming we'll see Zach Benson in the lineup tonight. Your thoughts on Benson earning a spot here in Buffalo? And Lance, we kind of know the rules here that at some point maybe the Sabres could send him back to junior. What does Zach Benson need to do here in order to stay up in Buffalo?
It's going to be a tough sell, right? I mean, he's already extended his stay way beyond what they had initially planned. They had him penciled in for 3 exhibition games in the preseason. Well, he played so well and showed elite offensive instincts for an 18-year-old. And the way that their roster was structured, what they had at forward, the Jack Quinn injury, there was a spot available for somebody to grab, and he outperformed everybody who had played in Rochester the last couple of years. You know what? They don't have to keep him. This isn't a long-term commitment. They've told him, let's just see how this goes. No pressure. Play your game. Keep doing what you've been doing, and let's see where this takes us. They can play him a maximum of 9 games without burning the first year of his entry-level contract. I have a very difficult time envisioning them keeping him beyond those 9 games. He's 18 years old. Physically, it is very, very difficult for someone that age, of his stature physically, to do this for an 82-game season with travel. You have to bring it night in and night out, especially like this team is no longer in a development phase. Yes, they need to continue to help their young players get better, but no way are they going to just allow a young player to just keep playing games and making mistakes. They know they've got to win this year. So right now they think Zach Benson can help them do that, and they're just going to evaluate it as they go to see if that will still be the case.
Lance, there's a name on the second line from this morning's skate ahead of tonight's opener that we've had circled all off season, wondering where the head is at of Victor Olofsson, knowing that he was kind of the subject of trade talks throughout the course of the offseason. He's back. Are we going to get more out of Victor Olofsson here this season?
He's shown very good signs from what we've seen in the past 3 weeks or so. Like, he just needs to do more. You can't score your way out of trouble when you're struggling in other areas of your 5-on-5 game. And too often last season, that's what Victor Olofsson tried to do. He just kept trying to score. Well, if you're not doing all of the small things over the course of a game to help you score, you're only going to hurt your team, and that's what led them to scratch him for 5 straight. They're putting him in a position to succeed. He's on the line, as you mentioned, with Dylan Cousins and J.J. Peterka. That's Jack Quinn's spot. There's a lot of potential there. There's no excuses. Like, Victor Olofsson's going to get power play time. Victor Olofsson is skating with their second-best center. He's going to be in a situation to not only help this team win games, but it's a contract year for him, right? Like, we've seen power play specialists aren't getting paid around the league. It's one of the reasons why teams weren't banging down Kevin Adams' door to try to acquire this guy. You know, as much as he got an elite shot, teams need to see more. Victor Olofsson needs to show more, and now it's time to back up. I've liked his attitude. I've liked his approach so far, and let's just see how it plays out.
Does this team out of the gate have enough muscle? I'm thinking, well, maybe some things we've seen. First of all, Greenway. It's kind of like the forgotten acquisition of the Buffalo Sabres, and he's going to be on this line apparently tonight with Middlestad. And the idea that Peyton Krebs was willing to take on Sidney Crosby, that fourth line, Lance, is there enough muscle on this team right now?
There's a collective toughness that you need to win. Rasmus Dahlin is an extremely tough, gritty, physical player. He just doesn't always have to show it. You've got to be smart. A lot of the intensity and physicality that Dahlin has led to some minor penalties. Greenway will help. Greenway is a deterrent. He doesn't need to drop the gloves. That man's presence alone scares other teams off. You saw it in the preseason when the Penguins went after Zach Benson last week. We saw it late last year when teams were going after Dahlin. The fact that Greenway's on the ice, guys skate away. They go the other direction. Dylan Cousins, we know, they don't have that fighter, that guy who you put out there that's going to send a message by dropping the gloves. But they stick up for each other. Connor Clifton is a big addition in terms of the toughness, the abrasiveness he's going to bring on the back end, and Eric Johnson as well. It's a different kind of toughness, but that's the toughness that a team needs in this modern day NHL.
Lance, what's the status of Savoy going into the season?
So he's working his way back. Contact is the one thing that there's little benchmarks that he's going to have to get to be cleared for game action. What's going to be fascinating here, guys, is what's going to be the next step because he's flying out. Like, his skating looks regular season form because he was able to skate throughout the recovery from the shoulder and elbow injury. So he's fine there. And now does he go back to junior? Do they extend this rehab a little bit and keep him on injured reserve? We'll wait and see. But he's facing the same rules as Zach Benson. You can play him a maximum of 9 games. Otherwise, he's got to go back to junior. Unless they can work out a conditioning assignment where he can get a couple of games in Rochester and then he goes back to junior. But either way, the injury, the timing of it really took away his opportunity to help the Sabres at the start of the season.
Lance Isaski, Buffalo News, our guest here as tonight is opening night. Hey, Lance, we went this whole time without asking about the goaltending, so here we go. You wrote about Devin Levi, and Devin Levi, I think this time last year, a lot of them, I don't think, oh, yeah, he'll be in Rochester. No, he showed that he belonged up in the NHL, but from where you sit, your thoughts on Levi here and the challenge of him having to lead this team potentially over a full season?
Well, their entire offseason, adding Connor Clifton and Eric Johnson, was structured so Devin Levi, or any goaltender for that matter, doesn't have to carry this team. They'd be better defensively. No goalie in the NHL is going to have success if the Sabres play the way they do during those losing streaks last year, when Luukkonen and Comrie really weren't given a chance to succeed. So Clifton, Johnson, a collective improved team defense is going to help their goaltending. Devin Levi is good. They don't need their goaltending to be great. There's going to be ups and downs throughout the season. The key for the Sabres is to find somebody who can carry the rest of the games. They can't play Devin Levi 60, 70 games. That's not the NHL nowadays. And he's still transitioning from that NCAA schedule, which is a couple of days a week, a couple of games a week on the weekends, to the NHL, where you're traveling, you're moving time zones. There's physical games. Last week, he got run over in his crease in a preseason game. Like, the guys that are run you over here are a lot bigger than the ones that are run you over when you're at Northeastern. So they're in a better spot to have a young goalie like this. But in my opinion, they need to figure out who the number 2 is, because you can't carry 3 goalies for long. There's going to be a need for another player, and they're lucky they didn't lose somebody like Brandon Byro on waivers by keeping 3.
Lance, I want to talk to you about tonight's opponent, the New York Rangers, and how this Sabres squad matches up against them. But before we do that, let's put a little bit of a jeweler's eye on here and look at Rochester, because when we look at this roster, we kind of like, our eyes get wide. And we think, wow, there's a lot of guys coming back from last year's team that made a big run. For those of us that weren't paying very, very close attention to the preseason, what led to some of these names that we're familiar with coming back down to Rochester?
So Kulich and Roseanne are still raw. As much as they were impact rookies in Rochester last season, they have a lot of work to do on their 5-on-5 game. And that's fine. Like, the Sabres are finally in a position where they don't have to rush guys. And you saw, particularly with Kulich in the preseason, he was gripping the stick. I saw a player putting way too much pressure on himself to score on every shift. And you lose track of the details in your game when you're doing that. And you know what? I think the best case scenario for the Sabres now, Kulich in Rochester, let him just play a season, right? He's still not even 20 years old. Like, let the guy have a full year. Physically, he's ready, but everything else, they've got a great coaching staff down there and knows how to bring along young players. He'll be fine. And Rusek was the one that surprised me, guys, because I felt like he was the one that was most advanced, most ready to come up and help in Buffalo, but Benson outperformed him. I didn't see as much urgency in Rusek's game as I wanted to. Some of it was just uncharacteristic mistakes to the puck. Other spots, it was just defense. So, and Byro played well enough to make the team. It was just a case of, who do you keep, him or Benson? And, the edge goes to Benson. And I think that we're going to see Brandon Byro in Buffalo in the not-too-distant future. We'll see how things go, though. I mean, it's good for the Amerks. They've got a stacked team down there. Like, I just mentioned those forwards. There are quite a few others that you can mention that aren't as close to NHL ready. Plus, look at that blue line. Their defense core. Ryan Johnson was exceptional in Sabres training camp, and I'm interested to see what he looks like playing heavy minutes for the Amerks, at the start of the season.
So remind us here, and if there's any update about Jack Quinn and the Achilles injury and what kind of timeline. And, I would assume when we finally get to that point, we would see him in Rochester for some rehab.
We'll see. I mean, I would think so when it comes to rehab games. It all depends on timing. They're not putting they're not even putting an estimated timeline on it, because with an Achilles injury, they're going to be extremely cautious. They just want to make sure when he's back, he's full go. But even when he's cleared to skate, guys, it's going to take time. That is not an easy injury to come back from. I know that I was initially told 6 months approximately at the time of his surgery in late June, but wouldn't be surprised at all if we don't see him until January. And that's another storyline to watch with the Sabres. They need some secondary scoring to really emerge, whether it's more 5-on-5 contributions from Olsen, Peterka taking that next step, Middlestad, Greenway, because they were expecting a lot from Jack Quinn. It's just a shame that the injury is going to maybe take out the first chunk of his season.
Did Middlestad grow up before our eyes the second half of last season? Because it feels to me like he was a different player at the end of last season than he was to start the season. And is that maybe one of those areas where you could see the Sabres increase their secondary scoring?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, the previous year was basically lost to injury for Middlestad, and that is really difficult to come back from when you miss that much hockey, especially where he was at in his development, where he still needed to get better in very notable areas of his game. With experience last year, he had a tough start the last season. There's no question about it. But right around January, picked up, and I mean, to have the year that he did. He's able to go ahead and center the top line when Thompson was dealing with injuries late. the emergence of Middlestad was such a really a boom for this organization. I know that they always believed in him. It was like he always had the work ethic. The skill was always there, but the way that he's just rounded out his game and become, sort of one of those heart and soul kind of players, the way that he plays, like he's not afraid to get involved. I mean, the guy seems to have a huge cut on his lip every time I see him, or he gets hit. He just always looks beat up because the way that he plays the game. Just be interesting to see how he does at center now that he's going to start there for good.
Yeah, just a question about big name free agent that's out there, and I'll use this analogy here because with the Buffalo Bills and Brandon Beane, if there's a free agent, it seems like the Bills are always connected because Brandon Beane's going to make the call, like Odell Beckham Jr. for instance. Well, let's bring him in, let's talk to him, and I guess that's my question here is that there's these reports out of Canada with the info guys about Patrick Kane perhaps being. Is there anything more than just the fact that the Sabres are doing their due diligence here? Is this something that would possibly happen, in your opinion?
I think it's a real possibility, for sure. I mean, not only are you – think about the connections here. Patrick Kane's first roommate at an NHL training camp was Kevin Adams. Patrick Kane – when part of his time in Chicago, Don Granato was the assistant coach for Joel Quenneville and coached the forwards in the power play. That stuff matters, especially with how careful Adams has been and the types of people he's brought into his team, into his locker room. They know Patrick Kane. They know the type of person he is, and he wants to join a contender. He wants to join a team that can legitimately win. The Sabres, they didn't hide the fact that they checked out the forward market in the summer, didn't like the prices, and now – with Quinn's injury, with Olsen in the last year of his contract, and certainly not expected, wouldn't be a shock to anybody if he hasn't finished the year with them. There is a need for a forward. It would be a shock if Benson can do this for 82 games. They don't want to have to rely on a prospect in Rochester because you just don't know where their development is going to go, injuries. So, of course, there's due diligence going on. They're one of several teams checking out on Patrick Kane, and I think if it makes sense a couple months from now when Kane is healthy and the price makes sense and they don't think it's going to hinder their ability to give their young players opportunities on the power play or even strength, then, I mean, absolutely. If they think the guy can help them win, they think he's going to be a great fit. It's very realistic.
Lance, tonight's opponent, the New York Rangers. Tell us a little bit about how they match up with the Sabres. And let's take a wider view of the East, because for the Sabres to be able to make that postseason and end this drought, some teams are going to have to come down. Who do you think that is? Who's vulnerable in the East, and who can the Sabres overtake?
Well, the Rangers are going to be interesting to watch because they have a new coach, Pierre Laviolette. They brought in Phil Housley as one of their assistant coach. Phil's working with their defense, and their defense lacked confidence to an extreme degree late last season. I'm not speaking about Fox. It's Keandre Miller and a few of these other guys that you saw that they were making really big mistakes. They bring in Phil Housley. Of course, Michael Pekka is part of their coaching staff. Everybody in Rochester knows what Michael Pekka has done for young players. It's a fast team. It's a team with a lot of skill. It's an interesting matchup for the Sabres. Plus, they happen to have arguably the best goalie in the league right now, in Igor Shesterkin, now that Vasilevsky's out. And when you ask me about the rest of the conference, it's going to be a fascinating storyline to watch. We know what the Bruins lost because of retirement. We know what Tampa Bay is dealing with in terms of injuries. Florida's banged up on the back end. Everybody expects Buffalo, Ottawa, and Detroit to be the three that really start to make a push here. For me, Buffalo's ahead of that trio of teams. They just have more depth. They've got more high-end skill. There's actually a coherent plan, whereas when I look at Ottawa, they can't even pay Shane Pinto because their GM muddled up their salary cap so badly. Detroit, they buried their prospects and brought in a bunch of aging players. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So, and then you look at the Metro, we'll see. I mean, New Jersey, Carolina, they're the top of the table right now, and then it's Pittsburgh, New York Rangers. Hey, until you start playing these games, we could sit here and prognosticate and guess all we want. We're just going to have to see. Sometimes just who stays healthy, and for the Sabres, they got to be more responsible with the puck, and they got to help out their goalies, because I know we could sit here and talk about goaltending, UPL this, Eric Comrie that, who's going to be the number two. if they play the way they did in February or last November, good luck. You're not going to survive. So we'll see. I mean, I think the big key for them, stay healthy at first, especially on the back end, because you need those 6 defensemen to start really developing chemistry now with Clifton and Johnson, because that D-core, rebuilding it the way that they did, that is so important for them to be a legitimate contender and get further than they did last year.
Lance, I know this is not your department, but I feel like I have to ask you anyways. About the news yesterday. The right-hand guy to the owner is out along with the lead general counsel. And not only was John Roth overseeing the Sabres, he was overseeing everything here in Rochester as well. So your thoughts on the shakeup? Is there any chatter? Might this actually affect anything on the ice?
On the ice, no. This is always going to be just about business operations. The way that their organizational structure, at least the newer one that they introduced about a month or so ago, you got 3 department heads who are reporting to John Roth. Those 3 department heads are still here. So the only thing I'd be curious about is who do they report to? How does that work? I think for now, really, you're not going to see it on the ice. It's just, for the organization, I would call it unfortunate timing, right, that they had to announce that the night before the opener. And then, of course, they signed Owen Power a few hours later. So I think that they got people forgetting about it a little bit.
Yeah. Lance, what are you working on here at the Buffalo News that we can check out? And can we expect maintenance day with our buddy Joe Yurden as well? What's happening? What's new?
Hey, nothing much, guys. I'm just thankful the season is here. Season preview stuff is all done. Now let's let the games begin and see where it takes us. And yeah, thanks for the shout out. Joe and I just recently recorded an episode of Maintenance Day. I think we recorded it Wednesday or Thursday. Sorry, Wednesday. So yeah, hey, always appreciate the plug, guys, and always a pleasure to join you. Looking forward to doing it again soon.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Lance. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, guys.
Got it. Lance Lysowski, Buffalo News, joining us in the sports bar. Big game tonight. The season gets underway. The Sabres at home hosting the New York Rangers. We'll be tuning in, checking it out. You can tune in here on the Fan Rochester Puck Drop at 7.
All right, let's rewind. Because you have a unique perspective. You are a Blackhawk fan. And we all knew that Kane was from Buffalo, but you're reminded, wait a second. He has a relationship with Adams. He has a relationship with Granato. Would you be fine if the Sabres went in? Because you have this young group. If you're bringing in a big name like that, I would think that comes with a little bit of risk.
I would imagine that we're having this conversation. The only reason why we're having this conversation, the biggest reason why we're having this conversation is a relationship already exists. So Kane is probably already familiar with and comfortable with Granato. Kane is certainly comfortable with Kevin Adams. And if you have that relationship between coach and player, GM and player, and you can work with the player and the player is still coachable at this stage of his career, I would imagine he's probably not. But can you have a conversation with him and say, hey, this is what we've got going on here. This is your role. Can you accept that role? And can you do it at the right price? I think that's the biggest part of this, right? Like, he's a superstar player. Big name in the NHL. Few names bigger than Patrick Kane. But he's not the same player he was. He's not what we remember. He's still incredibly skilled. Incredibly skilled.
You don't need him to be top line here.
Correct.
You really don't.
Correct. It's intriguing. It has me a little excited. I'm not going to lie. The prospect of it has me excited, just because I loved watching him play in his peak in Chicago. I just thought he never got viewed as the best player in the league, but you just see him do things with the puck, and you're like, my God, the guy is just filthy, just a filthy, filthy player. So it would be exciting, but if you're not a contender, I think all bets are off. And that's the first step. Start winning games. Put yourself in a position where you look like a playoff team. And there were moments last year where the Sabres did not look like a playoff team.
No, some of those aforementioned. And I love Lance's response to the goaltending question, because that's really what this is going to come down to. Well, shoring up defenseman number 5 and 6 is going to go a long way, because you cannot go out there with half a defensive core.
And it's Devin Levi's gig, right? Like, he's not worried about the competition. It's the competition for who's backing him up because he's not going to play every game. He can't. It's his first season, his first full season in the NHL. So is it UPL or is it Comrie? Who's going to be the number 2?
I know I might be the UPL truther here. I don't think the guy got a fair shake.
Yeah.
I mean, so, like, of anybody that they haven't rushed anybody up, but that guy maybe. Remember, the year before, he was hurt. Wasn't even the postseason.
Yeah.
He's never played a playoff game as a pro.
They wanted to see him play a full season, which they saw him do last year, which is enough to have him around again this year. And we'll see how that shakes out. And hopefully Levi plays lights out and we don't even have a conversation about number 2 because it's like, all right, well, we just know how good Levi is when he's in there. And when you do have that number 2 in there, you can chalk it up as like, all right, well, let's hold our nose and hope that it works out in our favor. Happy hour next in the sports bar. More to unpack from Lance Lysowski, who just joined us here to talk about the Buffalo Sabres and their opener tonight at home against the New York Rangers. We've got some Bills news to get to as well. Do we have an injury report yet?
Yeah, not yet. We do have Diggs talking. He was asked about the outburst. So what did Steph say?
Oh, great.
Yeah, always insightful.
We can get to that. And we have time for your calls on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. You can join us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub in the new location at 135 West Commercial Street in ER. GoodSmokeBBQ.com. Happy hour next. Stand by for a round of shots and last call, all coming up within the next 60 minutes here in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan. Snap in action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. It's me, Danger, for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Now, if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, join me now. There's no better time to get in on the action. FanDuel.com/Mike puts a little wind in the sails. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, everything from spreads to player props, over-unders, and more. Again, FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, to kick off the NFL season. Join me on FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams.
9BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
It begins tonight for the Buffalo Sabres. The New York Rangers are the opponent. 18-year-old Zach Benson going in the lineup for Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, you probably take a second or two to kind of soak it all up and, realize that you're there, but at the same time, you're there to win a hockey game. So, you got to be dialed in and, ready to go.
Our coverage begins at 7 o'clock tonight here on the Sports Leader. Buffalo Bills back at work today. Dalton Kincaid, though, remaining in a non-contact jersey. He's still in concussion protocol. Dane Jackson did not practice today. Week 6 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's the Broncos and the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Game 4 tonight of the Braves and the Phillies. A win for Philadelphia, and they'll advance to the NLCS. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Like, I know the Giants aren't good, but I don't think they're that bad. But they were a playoff team last year. They're not that bad.
I think they're a good, solid football team.
They just stink.
Mike Danger.
You could treat this as a preseason game. Let's see how you look this week versus last week. This is a JV squad that's going up against the Buffalo Bills.
Gene Battaglia.
It's looking like we're going to have the Tyrod show coming up. Why not? Like, it's big reunion here.
Tonight's not very spooky Thursday night football game.
Great win for the Phillies last night. You're all decked out in your Phillies crap.
And that is the series. The Houston Astros defeat the Minnesota Twins.
That is now 7 straight trips to the ALCS for Houston as they now face the Rangers.
And the Diamondbacks have beaten the Dodgers. They have swept them out of Phoenix. Here come the Buffalo Sabres. The New York Rangers.
Owen Power.
Connor Bedard scored his first career goal.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
It's happy hour in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and making us part of your routine. Really appreciate you checking us out locally at 95.7 FM and AM 950. May we point you in the direction of the Odyssey app. It's free to download. It's where we sound our best. You can hear us static free as well as on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And if you're into video streaming, we're on YouTube. We're on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe there and click that notification bell on YouTube so you always know when we go live. Gene, this is a bad look for baseball in that, a lot of times you could say, I just want to watch the postseason. I just, wake me up when it's the postseason. Maybe the regular season doesn't matter when you consider that the 5 most successful and winningest teams during the regular season are out or could be out tonight.
I don't know who said that. Oh, me and others. This is the problem, and I'm going to sound a little baseball writer-like. That, so this is the part where we need a regular season or everything. It's still going to work out okay as long as it's not Arizona. I'm sorry. Arizona is not Baltimore. They are poor man's version of Baltimore. I give them credit. That's more about the Dodgers just kind of thinking they would show up and then, it's a 5-game series. That'll happen to you if you're not ready from the get-go. This Braves-Phillies series, though, this feels like the real NLCS.
Do you think that week off that you get for getting the bye, do you think that is more harmful than good? Because you're in a rhythm, man. You're in the regular season. You're in a rhythm. You're in a routine. You're used to that routine. It's a long season. And then at the end of the season, you're rewarded with basically a week off. Does that hurt more than it helps?
It could, but I would just point to this guy has an ERA of 4.49. You started Kershaw. I'm talking about his postseason. He is, for as good as he is, and he's going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher, he is nothing really. He's below average in the postseason. So if you, in a 5-game series, were relying on Clayton Kershaw to set the pace, that's the problem with the Dodgers is that, you had Betts. You had all these guys during the regular season. Oh, I love this stat, too. Mike Trout ended up with the same number of postseason hits as Mookie Betts this year. So, that's a bad combination. So the Dodgers not getting to the NLCS, that's a little... I think over in the American League, we kind of slept on the Rangers. They're a fun team, but I poo-pooed them. I said, no, that's a team that has bullpen issues. That's a team that, come on, you're really going to rely on Nathan Eovaldi?
It's been good.
That is going to be a fun series. We could just kind of watch from afar, like, okay, that's a rivalry in Texas. Let them have fun between those two teams. To me, though, this is the real matchup. Yeah. I mean, if you had Braves-Phillies as a World Series matchup, you know what you're making the argument for, Danger, actually? And this is, I think, Rob Manfred's world here, and this would make baseball writer and everybody else's head explode. Massive realignment in baseball. The fact that you have these first-round matchups, really you shouldn't. Like, why is baseball the one sport where you have American League, National League? If you just did it by geography and you had the number one playing the number, if you had the seedings a little more correct in that regard, or you just put everybody into one big pot, baseball at some point is going to have this huge upheaval. Baseball writer people are not going to like it, but...
Well, explain that. That's interesting to me. So would they go like the way I know that there's the divisions and everything changed, and it used like I remember they're not the same sport, but in the NHL, right? You had the two conferences, and you just the top 8 teams in each conference get in.
Yeah, that's it. So, like in baseball, and Jason Stark and others have reported, as soon as baseball figures, I mean, we're way down the road. First of all, you got to figure out, okay, get the A's to Vegas. Now, who are we going to make as the expansion teams? And at that point, you will have this massive realignment because the schedule is so balanced right now. Anyways, you're playing teams from the other league. Just
That's right.
Yeah, so.
It never used to be that way, but it certainly is now. Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting stat that the 5 winningest teams during the regular season, the Braves being the most winningest team from this past season, they're one loss away from elimination tonight. They could be out tonight with a loss in Philadelphia. The Orioles were swept. The Dodgers were swept. The Rays were swept in the wild card. The Brewers were swept in the wild card. Those are your top 5 winningest teams from the regular season, and only one of them is still alive, and they're fighting for their life right now.
Oh, could I just kind of like paint a picture here for you, because the world's going to change here. If you took out the top 5 in college football right now, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Oklahoma, okay, all of them are either 5-0 or 6-0. And then, okay, like let's apply that logic, because we're going to go to a world with 12 playoff teams in college football.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I cannot wait for an Oregon-Texas final. Ooh.
Oregon-Texas would be a lot of fun. What are you kidding?
on.
Oregon-Texas? That would be a fun game. I'd be into that. What else? Give me some other ones.
All right.
Washington and who?
Washington, Alabama's ranked 11th. That would be a perfect example. Like, Alabama does not belong in any playoff this year. They won't be in any playoff this year, but that's where we're headed.
They would get in. And
they would get in the new world.
Playoff,
Right,
they would get. I'd be into that.
Oh, get out.
What would you have? If they're 11, and who's 2? Michigan?
Michigan.
You'd have Michigan, Alabama in round 1? Yes. Absolutely.
You would have North Carolina, Georgia. Boring.
Yeah, because Georgia's going to beat up on anybody. They're so good. It doesn't matter who you put in front of Georgia. Yeah, some of those games would be boring. Maybe you work out a way where the top 2 teams get a bye or whatever like that, just to kind of even it up so it's not a complete snooze fest when they. But listen,
that's where
Michigan, Alabama would be a fun game. Like, that would be fun. I know Alabama's down this year.
Well, think about 12 teams. You're going to have the top 4 as buys, the next 8 then. And get rid of them.
Okay. But I think that's still a lot of fun. College football is going to be fun this weekend too, man. You got that Washington-Oregon game. That's a game. USC, Notre Dame. Oof.
Yeah, I can't wait to see all the Irish people going to the hockey game on Saturday night. They sold out. By the way, I don't have tickets. I do not have tickets.
Oh, you're popular all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden, like, hey, that hockey game. You're
all new friends.
You're the Tiger guy. Can you? No, I don't have any. But
when we used to do PXY Summer Jam every year, I would get new friends every spring, just like out of the woodwork, just like friends that I completely forgot about.
That was like every neighborhood Goomba of yours. Like, oh, hey, Danger, yeah.
Yeah, look, and I'm happy to hook up anybody that I can hook up with when I can hook them up. I just always found it fascinating that people that I don't talk to for months or don't reach out to me, like all of a sudden, hey buddy, what's new? What's going on? What do you know about this? What do you know about that? No.
I get to the point. Hey,
where are we at? Where are we at? I know. Okay, fine. Yeah, here you go.
So I would fully anticipate there's going to be a lot of people watching on their phone Saturday night.
Absolutely.
Football.
Happy hour is upon us here on the Sports Bar. We're gracious of that you've joined us and really appreciate you making us part of your day. We know how many options you have for your sports information and entertainment, and the fact that you choose us on your ride home is humbling. We've got our lines open for you if you want to pull up a stool. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. So before we get to the front office Buffalo Bills news, because it was yesterday at this time that we were hearing of a little bit of a shakeup here within the organization with the Bills and the Sabres, the COO and the chief, the lead general counsel for the Bills and the Sabres being let go unceremoniously. But before we talk about a little bit more about what we've learned about that, let's talk about what's important, what's on the field as the Bills prepare for Sunday Night Football against the New York Giants. We've got what do we have going on? Dalton Kincaid's still in a non-contact.
Yeah, Rousseau back, limited. We still danger. I never got it. The injury report from the Buffalo Bills. So
did they send it out earlier today than normal? Maybe.
No.
Well, Jackson being out, somewhat problematic, but I'm curious about what Benford is doing in practice, and I imagine he's probably limited.
You know what it is? It might be the fact that it's Sunday Night Football and that they don't have to put it out here right away. At some point, yeah, like from early, Alex Brasky and others reporting today on that, the fact that you had the Buffalo Bills, Dalton Kincaid, non-contact. Dane Jackson, he's not practicing again today, so it's something that I think we were kind of bracing for, the fact that, all right, you're already thin at corner without Tre'Davious White, and you really have these questions about Kyer Elam. What about Jamarcus Ingram being the next guy up, perhaps? Well, it's the Giants this week, and it might not even be Daniel Jones. As you pointed out, even if it is Daniel Jones, one of the worst. You could say he is the worst primetime quarterback of all time.
1-12. If you since 1970, of quarterbacks that have at least 10 starts in primetime, Daniel Jones is the worst primetime quarterback with a record of 1-12. Jones missing another practice today for the Giants, so it's looking less likely that he'll be out there against the Bills on Sunday. And of course, if he can't go tomorrow, I think it's safe to assume you're going to see Tyrod Taylor on Sunday night starting against his former team.
Ooh, so remember, Tyrod doesn't like to throw over the middle. He'll throw the deep shot.
You could have stopped at doesn't like to throw. He holds onto the ball too long. He can't process downfield. He doesn't like to throw in the middle.
He'll take off.
Sure.
That might be and might get you from a betting standpoint. I wouldn't go anywhere near this. These are too many points. 14.5. The Bills could win 2 touchdowns and you're still not winning the bet. Stay away. The Bills are going to win this game. I'll make my pick tomorrow. We did have the one story. It's not even really a story, but just passing this along. Because a lot of people were wondering, oh my gosh, Stephon Diggs throwing down his tablet. He's mad at Josh Allen. And as Josh Allen said yesterday, he was upset for running the round route. So now we live in a world where Diggs' every move we're analyzing.
Yeah, scrutinizing it.
Yeah, and he was asked about it today, and I love his response, Danger. I'm not in a space to try to be understood. I'm here to do a job.
Perfect. It's perfect. And his job at that moment is answering a question he doesn't want to have to answer, but that's a good answer to the question. It's fine. You don't have to understand me. I don't think any of us can understand because none of us are as competitive as that guy is. I mean, some of us are competitive, right? Competitive, we want to win, but it's a different level with this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I was there in the tunnel right after the Bengal game when he was storming out and had to be coaxed back in. And when you're up that close to it, the reporters that were there up that close to it.
It's scary, right?
It's scary. Yeah, you're not used to seeing something like that.
The thing that you hear about guys like Diggs, and I'm going to lump Diggs in with players that are the greatest at the Kobe Bryants, the LeBron James, the Michael Jordans. These guys are wired differently. The competition, in winning the competition, is all that matters. They're obsessed with it. They pour themselves into it. They will spend the additional time that others won't, to the detriment of everything in their life that you and I might hold dear. Our families, our kids, whatever it is, that doesn't matter to them. All that matters to them is getting the win. And maybe as they get older, it starts to fade off a little bit, certainly with like a guy like LeBron. But Kobe had it. Jordan had it. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise. Like Jordan and his kids, they're not really close, right? Like he was such a competitive a-hole that everything that was near to anything that we would consider near and dear to our hearts as mere mortals completely gets thrown aside if you're wired that way. And Diggs is wired that way. So I hear what he's saying and I appreciate what he's saying. I'm not going to try and understand how that guy thinks, how that guy works, why that guy gets mad, why he has an outburst like he had on Sunday. And by the way, you and I have had those outbursts too. I have them all the time when I try to fix something and it doesn't work and you throw something. And I have those outbursts all the time. It's not a big deal. And it certainly isn't directed at Josh Allen. I believe that he was mad at himself in that situation and he's going to be his own harshest critic. It's a stupid, tired, national narrative whenever Diggs flies off the handle. Nobody should question it anymore.
But it's also something you don't see where NFL players are wired differently. Diggs is at a whole different level, though. And not every NBA player is like that, too.
No.
Like, you're talking about the best of the
That's
best.
right.
Yeah.
And I think Diggs, at his position, is one of the best. I'm not putting him up there with the Jerry Rices of the world, but he's really, really special. He's a really, really good player in today's NFL. Is he the best wide receiver in today's NFL? Probably not. But does he want to be? Yes, he does. Does it burn at him that others are winning, that others have success that he wants? Yeah, it kills him. It kills him. And that's why the temper tantrums. And that's why I'm storming out of the locker room. And that's why you don't have to understand me. I'm not here to be understood. I'm here to do a job. I'm here to work. I'm here to get it done. I'm here to win. I love that guy. And maybe I'm biased. I don't know that there's anything he could say or do that's going to make me not appreciate what Stephon Diggs means to this team. And you never hear anything bad about him off the field, right? Like, when was the last time you heard Steph Diggs do something negative off the field? A lot of these guys get themselves into trouble. They make bad decisions, bad choices off the field. The worst choice he's made is taking out his sports car during a snowstorm. That's as bad as it's gotten for Steph Diggs while in Buffalo.
Well, challenging whoever in the coaching staff or whatever. It's one of those behind the closed doors, like whatever happened in Minnesota.
Right.
Like all of a sudden you're painted this way, and we jump to conclusions. And
honestly, if he was the guy, if what got him in trouble in the offseason was challenging Beane and McDermott about how this team is built, I'm okay with that. Is somebody holding him accountable? If it's Diggs, great. Somebody needs to say, did we do enough? Did we, I love that he's challenging them that way. And they probably don't appreciate it, but you have to respect it. You have to respect it, because all we're trying to do is get better. All we're trying to do. If what you're saying doesn't match what you're doing, then I have a right to question that. Mm-hmm. And that's all Diggs is doing. I think it's great. I'm glad he answered that the way he answered it. He rarely missteps with a press conference. I don't know that I've heard him say something off during a press conference. He's pretty good at dealing with the media.
I think it's fair to say, though, he doesn't like doing
of course
that
not.
stuff.
I don't think any of these guys like it. I think some are better at faking it than others. I don't think any of them like doing it. We get action tonight in the NFL. The Chiefs hosting the Broncos.
Oh, don't bury the lead, Danger. The girlfriend will be there tonight.
What's her name is going to be there, as you said earlier.
I pulled McDermott.
Yeah,
I was like, what's what?
Like you forgot who the biggest star in the world is. What was it, Taylor something? Maybe I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you went Sean McDermott. You got a screw loose up there.
Well,
pal.
the Giants. I think they were in the postseason last year against Minnesota.
Yeah. Maybe they made the postseason. I don't know. They're a pretty good team. Yeah, I think she had a sold out tour. Maybe I can't remember. Maybe I heard something about it. Errors tour? Is it a baseball tour? No, Eras. Oh, okay. Yeah, a Taylor something. She might be at the game. No, I think it's interesting that a guy that meant a lot to the Chiefs and signed with the Broncos. I don't know if you saw the story here of Frank Clark.
Frank Clark. Yeah.
Frank Clark is out for tonight's game, and he's probably played his last game for the Broncos. man, Sean Payton has to be a real challenging guy to work with. I mean, I just get the sense that he's a my way or the highway, just, exceptional a-hole.
Indy Barons, who joined us earlier, called the Broncos the worst defense in the league. Who's to say they aren't? They gave up 70 points for crying out loud. And first it was Randy Gregory, and now Frank Clark. If you're the worst, then just get rid of everybody. And this is where you can there are guys there you can kind of take a look. This is not a team that's going anywhere. Just can they make it entertaining tonight? I don't even have to worry about it tonight.
How bad does Frank Clark want out of Denver? He's agreed to restructure his contract and give up over $1.6 million in guaranteed salary to make it easier for the team to trade him. I hate this so much. I will give you over $1.6 million to get me the F out of here.
You know where he's going. In fact, he's not going anywhere. He's staying where he is going to be tonight, assuming he's with the team. He's not with the team. But if he were, just walk him across the sideline. You know he's going back to Kansas City.
I think it's funny, by the way, speaking of that terrible Broncos defense, because when it happened, I remember scratching my head thinking, like, when does that ever happen? When does a guy who was fired from an organization as a head coach, and granted, it's a different ownership group and there's been turnover. When does a guy come back to that organization to become a coach again? Vance Joseph is the defensive coordinator in Denver.
I think right now, Vance Joseph is actually having the time of his life.
I've got one for you. It's a deep pull. Gunther Cunningham. Remember, he was the head coach of the Chiefs, and then he came back as the DC.
Oh, yeah, but was he an interim head coach? He might have been an interim head coach. I don't know if he was ever the full-time head. Maybe he was.
Okay, and I got another one. Same team.
Oh, with Kansas City?
No, Denver.
Oh, with Denver. What? Wade?
I think Wade was the defensive coordinator, right?
Wade?
Wade was everywhere.
Yeah, he did bounce around a lot. Well, I don't know. Vance Joseph he's struggling. I don't know if I want to talk about how much Vance Joseph is struggling.
Denver, defensive coordinator after being the head coach 2015, 2016.
So he came back.
He came back.
After good for them, I guess. But with Vance Joseph, man, this isn't working. It is not working. And Frank Clark wants out to the point of, I'll give you $1.6 million to get me out of here. That's on Prime tonight. The Chiefs hosting Mr. Unlimited.
No, great pull by me. Let me give myself some credit here when I'm right.
When you're right.
Gunther Cunningham, head coach of the Chiefs in 99 and 2000, was the defensive coordinator 04 to 08.
Okay. Okay. That checks out. I could have swore he was just an interim, but that wasn't like an exciting brand of Chiefs football like we have now.
The one thing I remember about Gunther Cunningham, and it's like one of those late night infomercials.
The blue blockers.
The amber vision glasses. Yeah, like
not the blue blockers. Yeah, the amber vision. He always wore those yellow tinted sunglasses.
Yeah, it's always like, it'll help you driving at night. Yeah, amber vision.
Gunther, what are you doing? Are you going hunting afterwards? Getting up in the tree stand? What do you got? What's up with the glasses, bud? So yeah, we've got options tonight, man. Between Major League Baseball, between that Phillies and Braves elimination game for the Braves, and of course tonight it all gets underway for the Buffalo Sabres. The season gets underway from KeyBank with the New York Rangers coming to town. We'll have that game for you here coming up about an hour and a half from now, 7:00.
Yeah, as good on our guy Chris for pointing out he's not one goal scorer, goal song this year. Every player has their individual.
That was last
song.
year. Okay, hit me with some of these. I want to know is it the same as last year, or do they freshen it up? Is I Want to Dance with Somebody still there for Skinner? What do we got going on?
All right, so gosh, I'm the wrong person to ask, Danger. Well, ABBA is Victor Olofsson.
Yeah, I think that was from last year too.
Kyle Opozo's going with Drake. Casey Middlestad, all right, there's a Rochester connection, Foreigner, Jukebox Hero, which that's also the Nighthawk goal song. So Jukebox Hero, I like that. Iron Maiden, yeah, Yokiaru. Okay.
What song?
The Trooper.
Okay.
And yes.
Miley, Party in the USA.
Oh, Twisted Sister, I Want to Rock, Connor Clifton.
Good one.
I like that. No, this is the one that I'm just like, oh no. Jacob Bryson. Timmy Trumpet. Narco. No, it's not funny.
It's a jammer.
No.
It's an absolute jammer.
No, it is. It brings back bad.
What are you talking about? If he scores, and Bryson probably a scratch tonight, but if he gets out there, and in the rare occasion that he does score, you don't think the place is going to go nuts when this song comes on over the loudspeakers? Hit the post. It's going to kill. It's going to kill. I would get tired of it if it was the only goal song. What was Dan DeLorean saying, that the Leafs changed their goal song?
Yeah, I guess.
They got away from Hall & Oates, You Make My Dreams Come True, which I thought was a terrible goal song. Terrible goal song.
Am I the only one that thought Party in the USA kind of hit? That was Skinner's.
I think it's... Oh, wait. Yeah. Who has I Want to Dance with Somebody? I thought Skinner had... No, who had Party in the USA? Was it Skinner?
Yeah. He's going with Breaking Free by Troy Bolton.
Okay.
You see, again, I'm the wrong person to ask for this stuff.
Party in the USA is a jammer. Yeah, I'm into that song. And you know, I'm not ashamed to say, like, there's some female pop stars, not named Taylor Swift, that I actually think are good. Miley's one of them. Miley can sing. Miley's the real deal. She's talented. And the other one is my girl, Olivia Rodrigo. Lots of attitude.
Oh,
big fan.
What about Doja, though?
Doja's my girl.
Yeah.
Like me some Doja. New album is out, by the way. I want to say track 3 or track 4 with the initials of WV. I don't know that I should say it on the air because it would probably get me fined.
Don't get us fined.
WV. The initials of the song. Just filthy. Glad I can contribute to the decline of our civilization.
I picture just all you middle-aged men just sitting there nodding your head, pretending like, oh... like when she's playing this.
Hilarious. She's playing us these jammers from her new album.
Well, I have to take a step back. Danger sometimes gets flown across the country because he's Mr. Programming, and as a thank you or to get us to play the song a little bit more, here I am.
No, the two are not connected.
Okay.
Let me be extremely clear that them flying me to L.A. to listen to...
Sorry, I don't want to get you
not connected at all to us playing. It does not influence us. It's just for us to become familiar with it, Gene.
Okay.
Sorry. I should be chief legal counsel for the
I
Buffalo Sabres.
don't want to get you in trouble.
General counsel. I know all the ins and outs here. No, they fly you out. They put you in a room with other programmers and music people, and the artist comes in, and they just kind of go track by track through their new music, and you listen to it all. And it is funny when a song that's absolutely filthy, like, you would not play it for your mother. You wouldn't want anybody to know that you even listen to this
How do you play it on the radio?
Right. You hear it, and, all I'm thinking is like, wow, this song is going to be extremely popular because of how filthy it is, and I'm glad it could be part of the decline of our civilization with this song. But everybody is nodding their head, bobbing their head, and, you applaud every song. It's not that you're going to say, like, boo, that song is trash.
You didn't get up and walk out.
Right. I'm offended. This is garbage.
How dare you say WV?
Doja Cat was lovely. She was awesome in person. She was completely cordial, very friendly. And they tell me that the station that I'm the brand manager for, 98 PXY, was the first pop station in the country to play Doja Cat's music many years ago. And when she heard that, her eyes got wide. She gave me this big hug and thanked me. And I'm like, you don't have to thank me. Keep giving me hits. Not that WV song, but other songs are good, and we can work with that. So yeah, if Doja's the real deal, big fan. Olivia Rodrigo, like Olivia Rodrigo a lot. Good music from Olivia Rodrigo. There, I'm not ashamed to say it, Gino.
I don't see Olivia Rodrigo on any of these goals.
That's a shame. Yeah. That's a shame. Well, they got to come correct. Well, hopefully we're hearing those songs with great frequency throughout the course of the season. I doubt that we're going to hear a lot from Bryson, but maybe we'll hear some Timmy Trumpet, and Gene's head will explode.
Yeah, don't text me when that happens. I'm fully aware. Thank you, Chris, for pointing that out on X there, our handle, at The Fan Rochester.
Let's get to a round of shots next in the sports bar.
Yeah, so there's other NHL going on here tonight. We'll get to that as well. The story about Bryce Harper going in, too. We've got some things to talk about here coming up in shots.
All right, on the way next, the sports bar, Danger and Battaglia on The Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from
As the New York Rangers, the opponent, Owen Power got a new contract. He is ready for tonight.
I mean, I'm just excited to play. Like you said, it's been 6 months since the actual game, so it's felt like a long summer. And like I said, just really excited to get going and get back in the swing of it.
Our coverage begins at 7 o'clock here on the Sports Leader. The Bills back at work today. Not working, though. Dane Jackson, he's not practicing. Dalton Kincaid was out there in a non-contact jersey. He's still in concussion protocol. Week 6 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's the Broncos and the Chiefs. And yes, Taylor Swift will be in attendance. The Braves and Phillies play Game 4 tonight. A win for Philadelphia, and they advance to the NLCS. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Bills fans, Odyssey is your home for football. Stay up to date on everything Bills, no matter where you are, with the Odyssey app and the Sports Leader, The Fan, Rochester.
No, Kevin talked to me. I don't know what day it was. Saturday maybe. He just pulled me in. We had a quick 5-minute chat, and he kind of just let me know that I'm sticking around. And obviously I was pretty pumped.
Say, what was that like for you just to hear that from an NHL general manager at 18 years of age?
Yeah, I mean, it's really what you dream of, and I was pretty pumped.
Sabres rookie Zach Benson. See him tonight. Sabres open up their campaign at home against the New York Rangers. 7 o'clock puck drop here on the Fan, Rochester. He's excited.
He's excited. I don't think he sticks here long, though. When we talked to Lance Lysowski, and I don't get these rules, right? Okay, you can't go to the Amerks, but you got to go back to junior. He's allowed to be with the Sabres for 9. How many?
That would be 9.
9 times.
So we see him 9 times before he goes back to juniors?
I think so, but then there's been others. Tyler Myers probably being the shining example where, he's really good. He ended up winning the Calder for the Rookie of the Year, but then after that, maybe not so good.
So it's just a wait and watch and see. I mean, if he shows up, I'm with Lance. It's not unprecedented that an 18-year-old can come into the league, but he's not that size. He's kind of he looks like the kind of player that could use a little bit more seasoning in junior. But it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to kind of monitor his progress and see what the team decides to do with him.
Sabres locking up. Another piece of the young core, Owen Power last night getting set. That wasn't coincidence, right? We have this really bad story about the COO getting pushed out there about, having this affair.
Quick. Throw money at a player.
All right. Owen Power, 7 years, $58 million, $58.45. The extension doesn't begin until the 2024-25 season. He's the second guy to get a contract. Rasmus Dahlin earlier in the week, 8 years, $88 million over the last 14 months. Tage Thompson, Matthias Samuelsson, Dylan Cousins. They also got long-term deals. Power's still only 20 years old. He still has 1 year remaining on his entry level tier.
The only thing about this, and I know that this is a symptom of the NHL, you're paying for potential. These are players that have had nice seasons, but they haven't won anything. And so you're really hoping, and I think they're safe bets. They feel like safe bets. We like what we've seen from Power, from Dahlin, certainly from Thompson,
but
Samuelsson.
Then injuries and who knows what other could happen.
Right. I just never like the idea of paying on potential. I want to pay knowing that I'm getting my money's worth. I might get my money's worth, maybe.
But if it works.
Oh, yeah. If it works, now you've got it. Now he's a value. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. In addition to the Sabres opener tonight, 6 other games in the NHL. Philadelphia is at Columbus, Vegas at San Jose. 8 p.m. on Hulu. Detroit playing at San Jose.
There are a couple games I like tonight. I like the Stars and I like the Devils, both home teams. Minus a goal and a half on the puck line. I think they win by 2 or more goals in those games.
In addition to the Sabres opener, you got baseball tonight. You have Philadelphia, Atlanta, right? Game 4 tonight. Philly fans had to love Bryce Harper. Staring down Orlando Arcia, the Braves, both times after hitting home runs. It was in the Braves locker room after Game 3. Arcia yelling, "Attaboy, Harper," but Oh boy, that got back to Harper. Philly can advance with the win tonight. Spencer Strider trying to keep the season alive for Atlanta. Ranger Suarez going for Philadelphia. 8:07 the first pitch on TBS.
Did I hear Philly fan chanting, "We want Strider" in last night's game? Like, that is next level cockiness, and I absolutely love it. I love Philly fan. Philly fan is awesome. That is next level cocky. Like, yeah, you're in the bank, and good luck.
Yeah, and there's some loser language coming out of the Braves locker room as after last night, Bryce Harper hitting the 2 home runs, and well, who's to blame here? Is it the pitching? No, silly. It's the media. Travis d'Arnaud says it's the media's fault.
The clubhouse is a sanctuary, and I think when things like that get out, it doesn't make people want to talk to the media. It affects the people who have been great to us all year, and it is what it is.
Ugh.
It is what it is.
Ugh. It is what it is always code for it is BS. Whenever you hear somebody say it is what it is, he's not happy about it, but that's poor. That's poor form.
NBA executive vice president and head of basketball operations, his name is Joe Dumars, remember him from the Pistons, says the league has communicated to the players and teams that we are really emphasizing this is an 82-game season.
Yeah. Okay.
How about telling the coaches and maybe fine people? I don't know. The issue for the NBA is this. Broadcast rights are up for grabs after the 24-25 season. The league has 2 years to figure out how to solve this problem of load management.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, right? It's all about the TV revenue. And if less of us are watching because the stars aren't playing and the matchups aren't as compelling when the stars aren't playing, get out there and play. I mean, it used to be with, and it still is this way. Like, if you want to punish a player, don't fine them. Make them not play. Bench them, right? That was always the punishment. Like, you're going to get benched. Like, in the NBA, it's like, oh, I want to be benched. Please, by all means, don't play me tonight.
I know this is going to shock you, Danger, but have you ever wondered, wait a second, Pat McAfee, why is he BFFs with Aaron Rodgers? What is that all? Like, why does Rodgers do his show, and yet you can't really get him to talk straight to anybody else?
Well, I think A.J. Hawk is a part of that, right? They were teammates, so they have a relationship.
Well, I guess, but the real reason, according to Andrew Marchand of the New York Post, who just put this out, would it shock you that Aaron Rodgers, according to Marchand, is paid millions for these weekly appearances? Millions. The money that McAfee pulls in, he's in the middle of a 5-year, $85 million deal. So this is McAfee paying for his own programming. Also, Nick Saban makes a weekly appearance. So I'm sure that Saban is getting compensated.
Is McAfee paying for it, or is McAfee's company paying for it, or in this case now, is it ESPN paying for it?
I want to say Rodgers was making these appearances before McAfee jumped over. The way I understand it is, it's ESPN isn't paying McAfee. You pay McAfee's company, and then he gets to, okay, I could pocket all this myself. I could pay for producers or whatever I want to do.
Hey, good for him, man. I mean, like, I'll give him credit. The guy went from being a punter to this big personality that you know, it's a good show. It's an entertaining show. It's not as good as we are. I mean, you know.
Maybe you got to go sleeveless, Andrew.
Is that what I have to do?
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
Don't threaten me. I'll show up here and the cannons will come out.
No.
The guns will come out. I'll get the guns out. Absolutely.
You know what? Finally, as we brace for tonight, the Chiefs and the Broncos, and Al Michaels has spoken. He says, no, Amazon will not overdo it. Here's the quote. We're not going to overdo it tonight. Everything in moderation. All right, this is about coverage of Taylor. Our crew talked about it this morning. You can't make a sideshow of our show. The vast majority of the audience are tuning in to watch a football game. There are people, I don't know how many, it could be a sizable number, but it's certainly not a majority. And if you train the camera on her all night long, they'd be satisfied with that. This is not what we're going to do. Michael's adding that they will not make this game farcical.
Watch your tongue, pal.
You think so?
Watch your tongue.
You think so,
You
Al.
just watch your tongue, old man.
No,
You watch your tongue because she will snap you out of existence. You think you have a choice? You think you have a voice? You think you can actually dictate how much America's royalty shows up on the screen tonight while we're watching on Prime? You don't. She's in control. She owns you, pal. She owns you, so you watch your tongue and you give us the Taylor Swift that we're all tuning in for.
I guarantee there was some quid pro quo for Taylor to show up tonight because doesn't Amazon have a lot to do with music too?
Sure.
Oh, and everything else. That
She has a movie to promote.
Yes.
She has new music coming. 1989, Taylor's version coming soon. This is all promotion, and it's all, I guarantee you, it's all paid for. It's all organized. They know exactly how many times they're going to go to her. And as much as Al wants to say, we're not going to do Al, you work for Amazon, and Amazon will tell you you're going to do this. And if you don't do it, then you will cease to work for Amazon, and Taylor Swift will snap her fingers, and you will go off into the ether like Thanos in the Avengers. Please, Al, watch your tongue.
My gosh.
You're a treasure.
Yeah, I think I might tune over because in the third or fourth quarter, at what point does Al get sick of the cutaways? And he openly is like, well, there she is again.
Yeah.
What do you think of this? I hate it.
Every time Kelsey is shown, you got to follow it up with a picture of Taylor's reaction. Big play by Kelsey. Go up to the booth. Go up to the press box or go up to the suites. Let's get the suite level view from it's going to happen, and he doesn't have any say. That's ridiculous.
Does Taylor Swift sit with Donna tonight?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. We got to get to the last call at 866-4326. If you want to pull up a stool and join us before we close up shop, get you ready. Sabres hockey tonight at 7, and we'll let you know who's stopping by the sports bar tomorrow afternoon to kick off your sports weekend here on the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports.
950 The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, I mean, he's someone I think all the D really have taken a lot from, but I think for me, it's been a lot more kind of off the ice than on the ice that he's helped me so far. So, I mean, obviously he's played for a long time and takes real good care of his body. So, for me and I think a lot of the other guys, we've been able to kind of pick up on some stuff that he does just to get his body right before and after practice, and I think it'll help us a lot in the long run.
Buffalo Sabres defenseman Owen Power talking about his new teammate, one of the new faces you'll see on the ice tonight, Eric Johnson on the blue line for the Buffalo Sabres. 7 o'clock tonight, puck drop here on The Fan Rochester. Welcome back into the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. It is last call at 866-4326-585, 866-4FAN.
Yeah, we want to, waiting patiently. Jim from Webster. Hey, Jim, welcome to the Sports Bar. How are you doing, bud?
Hey, just wanted to thank you guys for keeping me up to date on things with Dua Lipa, that she's a Mountaineers fan.
Yeah. She is a Mountaineers fan, isn't she?
WV, right?
WV. That's right. No, it wasn't Dua Lipa. We were talking about Doja Cat. WV stands for something.
Doja Cat.
Stands for something other than West Virginia.
No, it's West Virginia.
Yeah.
West Virginia, right?
Yes, it's close. It's close. Yeah, her new single on her new album called West Virginia. That's good. That's what we're gonna refer to it from now on.
All right, thanks, guys.
You got it. The radio edit. West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Here's Doja Cat. West Virginia.
Did you know that song was coming? Like all of a sudden, you just have to sit there with a straight face.
No, she didn't even play it for us. It was the last song she played for us. She's like, and I almost forgot. This is my song, West Virginia.
Oh, she said West Virginia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And everybody laughed, and then she played it, and everybody's jaws kind of dropped. We're like, okay.
And then at the end, all right.
Wow. That's really, really special. You have a gift. That's your art. Tomorrow, the great Don Stevens joins us as the Amerks season gets underway.
Yeah, tomorrow. I mean, it's hockey night in Buffalo tonight, and we're excited about that. But you have the Amerks tomorrow night, Bridgeport. So game number 1 for the Rochester Americans will set you up for the home opener. And then we'll also talk some New York Giant football. Chris Bisignaro from the Giant Insider as, I don't know, like if it's Tyrod. I don't know. We're really scared.
Yeah. Sabres hockey coming up at 7. Zach Gelb next, The Fan Rochester.
I'm Tony Kornheiser, and this is my show. What, you expecting something different?